Well, good morning. It is Halloween Eve. The Saturday morning cocktail kickoff is back. Well, I say we're back. It's a one-man show today. My crew has run off and left me. Michael is at a music festival, which we knew about. The corporate overlord stole Justin this morning. I mean, who does that? Don't they know he's got a Saturday morning show we got to take care of? But look, man, the demand is there. The people have asked. We had guests lined up. We've got a huge game on the plains. I mean, it's Halloween Eve at the Native American burial grounds. That's all. Those rebels are a little nervous going down there. So we got a big game. We got guests lined up to talk about it. We've got a former Auburn and Ole Miss baseball player who has some great stories from his time on the plains. Got a little bit of football stories to go in. He's now with Super Talk in Mississippi. Lance. Sorry, my bad. I got a tickle in my throat. Lance Talbert, man, I followed him. I went to same high school as he did. He was a few years older than me, and man, so I kind of followed his career because at Northwest Rankin, baseball was the king, and he was one of those dudes. And he went off to Auburn, followed his career, and so I've been lucky enough to hook up with him and have him on this day. And following that, high school coach from Mississippi, enterprise defensive coordinator Wes Roy, who coached star running back freshman phenom Jarquez Hunter down at Auburn. He has some stories about him. He's actually got some great insights on coaching his teams now undefeated in Mississippi. Wes has got some great stories. Actually got some good insight on the defensive coordinator situation at Alabama and his thoughts on the pressure that is coming on Pete Golden right now. And maybe I can get a laugh out of the guy about some high school stories for some of our old Hillcrest homies. But, man, like I said, it's a one-man show, so I'm not going to talk too much. It's hard to do that with one guy. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in Lance Talbert.
Lance, what's up, my man?
What's
good
up?
Morning.
Good morning. I kind of gave an introduction, told him, you were at Northwest Rankin. You were the superstar when I was a youngin', so I'm not trying to date you too much. But then you went down to Auburn, transferred to Ole Miss, played a little baseball in the SEC, have a lot of good stories, and now you can catch him on Super Talk during baseball season talking some Ole Miss baseball. So, man, Lance, glad to have you here, bud.
Oh, it's a pleasure. What are you drinking on this early in the morning since it's the cocktail kickoff?
This is the cocktail kickoff, and I'm glad you said that because I meant to do it in my introduction. One would think me being solo, I'd be nervous and not drink. Au contraire, I do have a Bloody Mary, sir.
Well, I was a bartender for quite a while. I spent a good bit of time as a stockbroker for about 16 years, and I kind of got burned out on that. And spent about 5 years in Oxford bartending at the Graduate, and then moved over to the Chancellor's house where we were doing very well, and then COVID hit. And so I was managing over there. And so, I got really bored in Oxford sitting around for months, and we didn't really know when the job was coming back. So, I jumped and moved down to Jackson, which, I love Jack. I grew up down here. So that kind of goes back to our Northwest Rankin, connection. And you said you don't want to date me. I mean, I'm way older than you guys.
No.
That's all right, though. I don't have near the cool hair that I once had. I love that, we're getting some of the kid and play, eraser to you got. Yeah, I love it.
You're talking. Now you did.
That's my kid, baby.
Play out. Come on,
I'm throwing some old school at you, but
if you don't think I watched House Party, why you were?
I watched it the other day, man. I mean, you got Netflix and all that. Some of those movies are great. I get a kick out of the older stuff. So yeah, that kind of
2 minutes in, and I've been called a racerhead. Yeah,
right. I love it, man. But no, so what are you drinking on this morning?
I have a Bloody Mary. Look, someone on the Rebel Grove message board pulled out a recipe for it, which I need to do. My dad used to make them homemade, but I'm kind of lazy. It's just Zing Zang and vodka.
Well, I mean, you can't beat Zing Zang. You can spruce it up all you want. You put your little veggies in there and all the good stuff, and and have you a little breakfast. I was always a big fan of a good chug of wine from the box, for breakfast before I would, go to work on those Saturdays and Sundays. Take the edge off of what happened the night before. A good Boda box, maybe 2 or 3 chugs off of that. Just hold the box up and right before you walk in. That's the way I roll. It's low brow.
Well, look, man, I'm not a big fan of that Bloody Mary when I get it and it looks like a damn, it's got a shrimp cocktail in it, appetizer, or
fried bacon piece.
Look, I'm simple. I don't have any of the extras. Just give me, and that's why I said just give me the Zing Zang and vodka and I roll. Well, man,
Well, probably, the vodka is the key ingredient there, in my opinion. I can go without the tomato juice and the spice. I could go just straight vodka on the ice. For those of you out there that, are moonshine drinkers, it's as close as you're going to get, to shine. But if you're looking for good moonshine in Mississippi, and I know that probably doesn't, it's not something people think about. You think of East Tennessee, that's not the case. There's a great moonshine in North Mississippi. And, I still have quite a bit. I've traded, been to a Grateful Dead show or two back in, went to Chicago years ago, and I had a big milk jug of Yellow Bush's finest. And
Yellow Bush's
finest. Yeah. Enid area. And went in, and there's, you got a bunch of old deadheads and hippies in this hotel that we kind of showed up at. And at the time, the girl I was with, we show up in normal clothes and everybody's barefoot, dreads everywhere. And I'm like, now this is going to be fun. The first thing we did when we walked in, some guy from New York was like, "Hey man, what do you got in the milk jug?" I said, "Well, here, take a pull off of it." And basically pre-COVID, obviously, it went around the lobby to about 30 people. And they were like, "What in the world is this?" I said, "This is Mississippi moonshine, man." And straight lightning too. So, again, I'll go with some moonshine for breakfast if necessary, especially before a duck hunt. You warm you up a little bit. But I'm just with a little Bailey's and coffee today. Our local cups. Frida does a great job, and she didn't put the Bailey's in there. That was, the addition of my own there.
So man, it looks like you're at a pretty festive place.
A buddy of mine
Mardi Gras in the damn background going on.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a party waiting to happen, my buddy Wade Timms, he's a former Ole Miss baseball player, played around the same time DeLucci was there. He and I crossed over a year, and but we grew up down here at the reservoir. He's the other side of the res, Madison County guy. I'm Rankin County. But he's a great guy. Now, anything I can do to, bring attention to their business. Fat Tuesdays, which is a great restaurant over here, right off Lake Harbor and in Old Canton. So give it a try. And but yeah, he's kind enough to let me jump in. And I love that your hair is rocking. That's awesome.
Man, look,
I love it.
If it takes away from the forehead, I guess I've done my job.
Right. I need to put a little like shine up there, shine remover.
Well, I'm gonna be honest, Lance. I wore a hat the first few episodes backwards.
I noticed, yeah.
And my wife was like, "You got to fix your hair. That's what all the famous people do." I'm like, "Sweetie, I'm not as pretty as Jesse Palmer and them dudes." But she's like, "No."
Well, I mean, it's all about the suit. If you get you a suit that's 2 sizes too small, then it definitely works very well with that haircut. I think.
Yeah, you got to the tight suit.
Yeah, exactly. You got to girdle up. Good to go. But here. Get to watch game day a little bit over here. I got the Mardi Gras going on, got my computer set up, and I'm sure I'll stumble through, our podcast. I'm used to, like I was telling you before, we get, you get lucky in radio. You don't get to cuss and you don't get to say and pause much, but you do get that little 5-minute break where if you forgot something or there's a name that's on the tip of your tongue, you can cycle back to that and get it. And and you come back. There's something we were talking about in the break. Well, podcasts, I have envy for you guys. You just got to roll through it. And then you cut out the BS, if there's something in there.
Oh, look, there's many nights at 1 a.m. we've laughed at me sounding like the micro machine man with the getting through a damn word because it is a pressure to, like I told you before, we did podcasts for 2 years, scared to death to come live because we didn't know how we would come off doing this or how dumb we were. So, or, being on TV, like I said, already getting mentions on my hair. So we got it.
Some
Northwest on TV, man, is a pressure.
Yeah. I mean, you got to deliver from here out. This means you got to get up super early on a Saturday now to get the hair done right. And then you can mix your cocktail because you don't want to do that backwards. You come in with something all ganked up, not looking right, throw off your whole feel online, and people are going to start, blowing you up over here. Like, man, what the hell did you do to your hair today? So make sure you get the product time to settle,
Well, again, and that's all distractions from the horrible analysis, possibly, or all the dumb shit that comes out
Hey,
of
that's
your mouth.
okay, man. Fake it till you make it, right?
Well, Lance, man, tell me, like I said, you were at Northwest Rankin, and for those that don't know, Northwest Rankin is a Mississippi high school baseball powerhouse. It's growing up playing at in the little league system that your goal is to play there, and so when you're younger, you know the guys. You knew I knew Lance Talbert, I knew Jimbo Penix, I knew Jeff Coate. I knew those guys, and then I followed you to Auburn. Tell me a little bit. Tell me a little bit about that, man. Were you recruited by Ole Miss out of the gate, or was it all Auburn?
Well, growing up, honestly, I was a great Ron Polk fan. He was a hero of mine. Watching, a guy that I idolized as a kid, Tracy Eccles. His dad, Lamont, was a great coach. Coached my cousins, Mike and Cully, at the old Manhattan Academy that later became Woodland Hills. So, my first experience in baseball really outside, and I played over at Hanging Moss, the old fields. And, I was a Mohawk Red. I think that was 7 years old. And I think the coach kind of came to my mom and dad and pretty much said, hey, this kid's got a little talent, So by about 7, I think I had a little bit different makeup than most, and it was still just fun. So I had a lesson with Lamont Eccles, and I remember vividly a guy named Chris Winstead, a great guy, great family, beautiful, sisters, father and mother, knew them very well. But Chris is about a year older than I. And so we had this one-on-one with Lamont Eccles over at the, I guess it was Hanging Moss. Yeah, it was the Hanging Moss Fields. And so we get out there and he's hitting his ground balls, and we're at shortstop. And we're supposed to field the ball and get your feet set and act like you're going to throw. And I think Chris cut in front of me, and I got pissed off, and he got pissed off. And we get in a knuckle dragging, knockdown drag out in the middle of the shortstop. We're like 7 and 8 years old. And so, at that point, I think, I knew that I needed to play football too. And I played. So I grew, Coach Lamont's pulling us apart, and, and then, boys, y'all got to settle down. And so I think that was the end of that lesson. And I don't remember getting another one from him. But his son, Tracy, always was an idol of mine. And so he went to Northwest Rankin and ended up going to Mississippi State and having a great career. But so that was probably where my toe got wet to baseball to start. But growing up in a football family, my dad played. My grandfather played both, Southern Miss. Dad started at Mississippi State. Brother got sick, died of cirrhosis. So he got homesick and transferred home. And he had been at State his freshman year, and they wouldn't let him out of his scholarship. So he had to go to Colin for a year. Well, my mama, and Papa, they're farming type people, wore a sundress everywhere, smoked glasses, combat boots, dip of Levi Garrett. And I'm talking about my mama, So, after he got done with his sophomore year at Colin, Mississippi State still wouldn't let him out of his scholarship. So she had to drive from Magee, Mississippi up to Mississippi State and basically lay down how this was going to work. And they were going to let him out of his scholarship, and he was going to go to Southern Miss. So they had wanted him to go back to State. So, again, I grew up with a lot of State and Southern Miss ties and family in the Baton Rouge area. So Ole Miss was kind of the wave the rebel flag, the red and blue, a bunch of crazy, atmosphere. And really, I'd only been to one game at Vaught Hemingway as a kid, and it was horrible. I remember it was nobody there. Nobody played on campus really. Ole Miss's campus was in disrepair, but yet you could drive into the Grove and park. So that was an interesting experience. So basically, growing up in football and baseball, that was kind of the planting of the seed. Was about 7 years old. So from that moment forward, all I wanted to do was throw a ball, hit a ball, hit somebody playing football, and grew up wanting to be a quarterback. Grew up wanting to be a pitcher and a bomb hitter. And so that's all I did. I had a batting cage, and had a pitching machine, an old arm machine somebody gave us. And, that's what I did every day until I went to college. Every now and again, I might go, may go have a beer with the boys at about senior year. But, most of what I did was play ball. And I decided baseball was what was right for me, my personality. I think I regretted that as I got a little older in college. Mainly because I missed football a lot. I really enjoyed it. And I like that, the physicality of it. So I tried to take that to how I played baseball, really, especially I think the more I got mature in college, I had a little bit of an attitude. I can't say that I was the nicest guy on the field, but I know, we had a lot of fun, had, great teammates and met so many wonderful people. So, if you got a kid, anybody out there has a child or what that plays sports, I'd say one thing about it is encourage them. And if it's something they enjoy doing, encourage them to do it, because I can't tell you I would have changed anything. It's just it's fun. It's the camaraderie, it's the competition, and you can play at so many different levels, that makes it fun and makes it rewarding. And somebody that's coached, somebody's played it. I really enjoyed my affiliation with the world of sports. And so that kind of brings it back to, your question, Northwest Rankin. Well, it was a great place to start. Jeff McClaskey was a good, still a great friend of mine, and the Jeff Coates and Penix and so many great guys that I was able to be around. Panner, and just you can't really say enough about those experiences. I think that it really shaped me well and made me a lot of the man I am today.
What do you man, it's funny as time goes by. I'm in my 40s now. I can still vividly remember.
Yes, Coach Bilbo was there, and he was awesome. So, yeah, I got to shout out on that. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. This is our Justin's our other co-host who, like I said, had to work today. Damn it. And
Coach Mangum. Now, my favorite was Coach Mangum because he would take a Fireball and mix it with his chewing tobacco. Oh. And he'd have a Fireball chewing tobacco mix, and he'd talk to you, and you're just breathing this tobacco. Yeah, Bilbro, exactly. And, he'd be chewing this tobacco with this Fireball in his mouth at the same time. And then Coach Wade's over there with a cigarette in his mouth, and he'd grab you by the face mask, and that cigarette would be like right there. Yeah, I mean, you're just like, please don't burn me. And I mean, it was just hilarious, the whole setup, back then. It's totally different now. It's very.
I remember a game vividly of yours because my next door neighbor, a guy named Jason Eskew, huge buddy, great friend of mine. And man, he was one of your receivers.
He was one of my receivers, yes.
First game that I rode with his mom too, and he was all pumped. And man, he was telling me about it, that tonight was going to be the night he was going to make a play. And I remember him streaking down the sideline, and I was like, "Oh man, there's my neighbor Jason." And y'all were like heroes, man, back in that day. Mm-hmm. And man, you laced one about 50 yards. Just one of those picture perfect. And I think it was like that movie where Robin Williams. Where
it's the Fast Times, not Fast Times, but Best of Times.
Best of Times hits him in the, that memory, man. Boom, 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 boom.
Oh, we had quite a few of those. Yeah, not just him, but we were more of a.
I think he threw to Robert the next time, but yeah. So So at that point where you were getting recruited, you said you kind of grew up with a Southern Miss, and you couldn't grow up loving baseball if you were kind of in the middle, unless you were an Ole Miss fan, you hated it. But Ron Polk is the man.
I love Kessinger. Kessinger recruited me lightly. Auburn, offered heavily. Florida State, I was getting recruited hard by Clemson, and at that time, Auburn really had not done a lot. It was a great SEC opportunity. Long-standing coach there in Hal Baird, great reputation with pitchers, and Florida State. I mean, those were my two finalists basically. Then Florida State didn't offer near as much money. You get kind of hung up on certain things, and the SEC was at that time still, as it is today, the best baseball conference in the country, and it was just something I grew up wanting to be a part of. Florida State was a great experience, and Coach Martin, you can't say enough about a guy like that. If I'd have played for him, I didn't have that stability in college. I got to Auburn. It really wasn't, the situation I thought I was getting into. Coach that recruited me and signed me had left, and Baird was getting close to retirement, and I went over there to hit mostly. Didn't go over there to really pitch. I really loved hitting, and so they turned me into a sidearm closer. And I was like, I tried this all through the fall and throw, and I just didn't like it. I was a starter and a hitter, not a sidearm closer. And when you throw hard enough, and I wasn't mature yet. I mean, I was 185, 190 pounds, 6'4" almost, So after about my sophomore year in college, I'm about 225. So, I started throwing the ball in the mid and low 90s, pretty regular as a sophomore. So, it was one of those things as a freshman, I got to pitch a lot. It was just, you I'll tell you a funny story. Went to a recruiting visit, at Auburn, and this was while I was at Auburn. I'd pledged to fraternity. I'd passed up the draft that summer. Had an opportunity to go play with a really good select team in Cincinnati, the Midland Redskins. Dumped that. Baird talked me into coming to school early. Went to school, got some classes under my belt, and was hanging out. I had some, baseball, football roomies. But was hanging out with some Pikes. They're pretty good dudes, most of them from Birmingham or Gadsden or Dothan and these places. And it was kind of cool getting to meet some good guys. So they threw me they were like, look, man, you don't have to go through Rush. We would love for you to, be a Pike. I said, okay, cool. Let me talk to my mom and dad. I talked to my mom, and she goes, don't talk to your dad about that. He's very anti-frat daddy. I said, yeah, that's why I talked to you first. So I pledge, and make it through, get initiated and all that. But we had this one big event called Donkey Polo. It was like Charles Sumner or whatever these, Sigma Chi Derby days and
Derby
all that.
Days. Yeah, Derby.
Donkey Polo. This you can do your homework and math on that. That's a shit show. But yeah, I had this amazing house with this big yard out front and all this expensive leather furniture. And so this one weekend, you basically take all the leather furniture out of this English Tudor mansion and put it in the front yard, and then mark off just a small little football field. And then some dude from Alabama, somewhere brings a bunch of donkeys, and so all the actives have to play donkey polo, and these damn donkeys are biting and kicking. And I mean, and you're drunk as Cooter Brown. Yeah, I wish I had pictures of that, but I mean, let me tell you.
I don't think they allow it.
Back then, there was no Twitter and, no, thank God I would be in jail probably, but so to make a long story short, the day kind of stretches on forever, and you're getting so drunk. And then I really was not a very good drinker. I'd had a couple episodes of Evan Williams and the old citrus cooler Gatorade that summer where we had gone out. I'd gone out with the big boys, I'm 19. We're going out in Auburn, and I had a couple explosions, it didn't work out well. So I said, I'm going to try this new thing called Cisco, that crap you could buy in the gas station, red sugar water that's basically liquid crack. Yeah. And they said, this stuff works great. Get you a couple bottles of it. So I take that to Donkey Polo, and needless to say, we had a mandatory recruiting night for all baseball players had to be at the Auburn facility, the football facility. Beautiful thing, And so all these recruits are coming in. I totally forgot about that. Drank a lot of Cisco that day, and delivering alcohol and basically trying to run leg too from the Dream Girls and whatever you call them. Had a couple real hotties. They're like 20. Use your imagination. high dollar furniture, people everywhere. Everyone's wasted. Donkeys biting and kicking, running into everything. And so you got that. And so the day spreads on, and I get to the end of it, and a couple of my pledge brothers like, hey man, don't you have a thing to be at tonight? I was like, oh God, yeah. All right, ran inside, threw on the suit and tie. They dumped me off. I walked straight into the lobby, and all the Diamond Girls, kind of in a little group. Nobody's mingling. All the coaches and players are mingling with the parents of other, the prospects. And here I'm lit, man. I thought I was holding it well. I come in, and of course, I don't speak to any parent, no recruit, no coach. I go straight to the ham, and I'm standing there with 8 girls, holding court. And they're all like juniors and seniors. I'm sitting there going, man, this is awesome. I mean, I'm crushing it. And, so I'm, I get this, I feel like I'm getting like a bunch of phone numbers. And back when you had to do that, I'm like lining it up. And all of a sudden I get this tap, comes and taps me on the shoulder. And I'm like, I didn't, get another tap. And I look around, and it's one of the coaches. And Coach Renfro goes, hey, Lance, come over here and let me have a talk with you for a second. I got to tell you something. I said, no, I'm doing fine right here. No, I need to talk to you. I said, okay. So I back up and go, back over here. And he goes, Lance, and he had this little tick to him. Hey, Lance, I think it'd be best if you just went on back home tonight. I'm going out after this. I'm not going home. No, I think it's best. Yeah. I'm
on
having
fire.
a blast. He goes, no. I still hadn't figured out yet that I'm in trouble.
Yeah,
So,
dude, you need
so
to go to the house.
I hadn't been there 10 minutes. I don't even think my Pledge brothers had left the parking lot yet. They're so wasted. So I make my way back out, get in the car, and we head back to Donkey Polo, the remnants thereof. Next morning, my roommate's knocking on the door, and I remember waking up, and he's like, Lance, Baird wants to talk to you. He's a baseball player too. I'm like, okay, what are you? He's not very happy with you. I said, okay. I didn't remember much of any of it, detail wise. I mean, I had the 30,000 foot view, so I had to get my first cajoling, in college that wasn't from mommy and daddy. And so I sat down in Baird's office, and he looked right across from me and put his arms like that and looked. He goes, Lance, I give everybody one chance, and you used yours. That was it. I said, yes, sir, I'm out. I won't screw up again. So we got off on the wrong foot, to say the least. And that was after, and I told you the story about practicing with, the football team for about a week.
Yeah, you've got a current 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon with like half the damn SEC. Current quarterbacks, coaches. It's kind of crazy.
Well, then, so Jimbo Fisher was the brand new quarterback coach there. I didn't know who in the heck he was. And, Terry Bowden had just been named the coach. And, there's all this excitement around Auburn not sucking and getting thrown under the bus and probation by getting rid of Dye. And so, they bring in Bowden, you're on, double secret probation kind of thing, can't go to a bowl. And so Auburn goes out and goes 11-0 that year. But, one of my favorite, memories is, getting a call saying, hey, man, you want to come throw the ball around? I didn't know who this guy was. I'm like, sure. Well, one of my roommates was a wide receiver, and he had been telling Jimbo, hey, my roommate can really throw the ball around. And like, you think I should tell it? Jimbo said, yeah, man, tell him. So I remember the guy telling me, yeah, so-and-so wants you to come throw around. I was like, what are you talking about? So I got a call, and it was Jimbo Fisher. And he said, hey, man, come out. So I did, and went out and threw around with Stan White and Damian Craig and Nix. So that kind of full circle back, Patrick Nix. Man, he, all those. I remember seeing Stan White, and this guy was freaking huge. I said, this is what a damn quarterback's supposed to look like. Good God, he was like 6'5", 240 pounds, and a beast. I mean, his teeth were as big as my head, And throwing with those guys was really cool. Then I get a call, hey, you're not gonna play football. We're paying your scholarship. So Baird and I had a couple of rub-ins in that way. So, James Bostic, I remember Big Daddy. I mean, he always had a boa. Yeah, a boa constrict. He walked around with a cigar and a boa. I was like, man, this this is SEC football.
Well, that's that's SEC and WWF shit. Yeah,
then you got Ace Atkins, who's a crime writer in Oxford now, and so I'd run into Ace all the time. And Ace was number 99, and the white guy on the defensive line at Auburn was a baller. And then you had this guy from New Jersey named Jason Miska, and I was kind of messing around with his girlfriend, so we were not really on great terms. And she was a stripper that might, over in Columbus. So it was just one of the, I learned SEC ball
through college, man.
Yeah. I mean, I'm stumbling my way through the, Auburn, and this is, I'm in Rankin County, man. This is all new to me. So yeah, it was fun, man. I had a blast there, but it didn't work out. So I was fortunate enough to be decent enough to be able to go somewhere else and not take really a step down and get to play. And it was, ended up playing for Pat Harrison, went to Ole Miss, had to sit, sat that year out, and it was Kessinger's last year. And I didn't want to, it was just one of those things. I thought I was going to play for Kessinger, well, he gets fired. And so, I really didn't know what I was going to do. And Pat Harrison called me. I was at home that summer, and he goes, hey, man, I'm the new coach at Ole Miss, and I heard you a big old boy that can throw it. Why don't you come up here and meet me? And I was like, who is this guy? Who's Pat Harrison? And I did a little work. I mean, you didn't have Google really that much then. It was like, I guess you had
Cal. He came from Cal State or one of the.
It was a Pepperdine before that.
That's right.
Well, and to go back, I once I read his bio, I was like, okay, I know this guy was the hitting coach at Oklahoma. Then he got to Pepperdine and did okay. But make full circle with Pat Harrison, my freshman year at Auburn, we went to the College World Series. And we got beat by Oklahoma in the first game. Our ace went against theirs, John Powell, against Redmond, and they beat us by 1 run. They ended up winning the World Series. Well, Pat Harrison was the hitting coach on that team. And then my pitching coach in college, Darby Carmichael, was the catcher on that team. So it all kind of, it's funny that it's strange bedfellows, you bump into and run into in the world of sports. And I'm sure the same with you. You just you'll bump into so many people and so many little connections that you didn't even realize were there when you met them, 20 years ago or 30 or something. But
no, it's amazing, and how it tentacles out. And
Stephen Davis, if I remember, was a freshman that year, and that's the biggest dude I've ever seen.
We like to ask all of our guys it, and Lance, you were obviously, you're good enough to play college baseball, but you were also, you're a damn good football player. But
well, I could throw it a mile. I wasn't the fastest guy, but I could throw it a mile.
We had aha moments. I went against DeMarco McNeil in high school, and that's when I realized, oh shit, this is okay. High school football's is where that's what an SEC dude looks like. I'm not that dude. You obviously went further. Who was that first dude that you ran into, or like, and you could probably, I'm assuming you dominated most of the way through Little League and all that, but who was that first dude you ran into, and you're like, holy crap? I know you Eccles you looked up to, but who was guy you ran into as I stumbled?
Well, I'd say in football, Mark Jeffcoat. He loved just drilling me all the time. I'm like, dude, we're on the same fucking team. Come on, you can't do. I'm the quarterback here. Yeah, man, you need to get yours too, though. And then his brother Mike, he played defense. But Mark, he started 4 years in the SEC at Vanderbilt,
and played with Vanderbilt with a good defense.
Played with some great linebackers on that. To be in that crew that he was in that Woody Woodenhofer crew of defense. I knew quite a few of the Vandy guys. They were always classy and great. I always enjoyed hanging out with them when I'd go up there. But quite frankly, the first person that lit me up was Mark Jeffcoat in football. And I realized I was wearing my dad's Southern Miss helmet back then. It was they didn't have pads in those things. You know what I'm saying? It's like the old, it was a couple of bar kind of, just a little square bar that we had put on it. And it was it's like plastic shell with a couple of pads in there. And I remember doing in Oklahoma when we were like 7th grade or 6th, I don't remember. And I got lit. And I remember my bell being so rung. I don't know how many damn concussions I had wearing that helmet. But I remember going to my dad. I'm like, Dad, you're going to have to get me a better helmet than this, because I just got lit. So that was probably my first, experience, going up against somebody that I said, this guy, he takes this serious, and he's pretty damn good too. And watching Jeffcoat grow, we were extremely competitive with one another. And so it was fun being close enough. And then Robert Reed, most people, I don't know if folks remember Bunny Rabbit, but I grew up with him, and we kind of talked him into coming out to Northwest Rankin and playing ball with us. And so, he again, as a young kid, at 10 years old, there was something different about the Bunny Rabbit. He was just physically something else, and, played the game so easily, whether it was football or baseball, it just, almost nonchalant. It looked like things were so easy for him. So though, I think at a young age, those are two people that I could say at my own peer group were people I knew you could see had the ability.
And Ole Miss fans, you should remember the name.
I lose you there.
Robert Reed actually kind of guys go out of state first and come back home. Robert started off at Arkansas playing football and basketball, but then ended up when Tuberville was at Ole Miss and played for Tuberville and
playing H-back basically.
Yeah, had several big plays.
He was smooth. If Robert would, and it's funny, we laugh today. Even his, if he'd have had the upstairs, drive. Yeah, he could have been absolutely amazing. Got to Arkansas, didn't really want to play quarterback, and that was the thing. I played quarterback. I didn't play my senior year, so they kind of put him in. Yeah. I played on the field. Yeah. Yeah, he was amazing, but as far as a play runner, a defense reader, it was just not something he enjoyed doing. He liked having the ball in his hands and going and getting it done. When my junior year, when he was wide receiver, he was so funny. He'd come into the huddle and go, Lance. I can get open, man. I said, what are you going to run? What, a fly? Are you going to run a post? You're going to run a slant? Are we hitching or hitch and go? What do you want to run? I just want to run, man.
Open space.
All right, haul ass, bro. When I say haul ass, and we were running a I form. We were not a very diverse offense here, we ran the option. So, I mean, I can tell you, that was something I learned to do the hard way. Spent a couple of nights in the emergency rooms, over years against Pearl and Brandon, getting clocked. But having Robert on that, it was funny because you always had to go, is he going to run the route he told you he was going to run? And
or is he just going to try to get over?
Most of the time not. I mean, he was going to do his. So you had to kind of wait to see where he was going. And then
Robert was the prototypical Phil Longo receiver before.
Oh yeah, find space.
Yeah,
if he couldn't beat the guy, he just stopped and be like, "Hey, so hey, I'm over here," and you're like, "God, thank God I got a good arm." I got a pretty good arm. If you'd see him 40 yards down the field, and I'd be like, "All right, I got to let this one rip," And but so he and I would go out at football. We would just sit there. We would start at the 50. And we would warm up, throwing it into the end zone. He would be on one end. He'd be on the goal line. I'd be on the 50. And then we'd throw, and we move back five. And I could throw at 73, and he could throw it right at 75 yards. And I mean, just easy throwing, too. He'd just go, whoop, and the ball would just go, and he did not have an Eli or Peyton Manning spiral. I mean, it was one of those tight. And, I mean, when it hit your hands, like, man, this guy's got an arm. Yeah. And here I am throwing it 73 yards, and it just doesn't feel the same.
Yeah.
Just a cannon, just a cannon.
And but
it was fun, growing up with the talent we used to have around here. I mean, baseball was loaded. I mean, we had so many great, you don't see it quite as much around this area. I don't know why, but this area just doesn't seem to get recruited as hard as it once did, or doesn't put out the players. But in those days, it was something else to be around. And then, I didn't do the go off. I did the freshman year where I went to Virginia and played in that wooden bat league. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of jokey back then. And so from that point forward in college, I mean, I played semi-pro baseball with a bunch of dudes that played at Delta State, Mississippi State, and Ole Miss, like McNeese and Richie Hines. I got to play with Tracy Eccles. The two youngest guys on the team were myself and Chad Bradford, who ended up spending a career throwing submarine in the bigs. And so Chad and I had a blast with those guys, and we were, 20, 21, and everybody's, over 30. And Jeff Long, the best shortstop I ever played with in my life, Jeff Long. And, he was 30 something. McNeese would pull up out in a parking lot for the semi-pro, world or state tournament over at MC. He'd pull up out of the parking lot with his work suit on, and he'd just, slip into a baseball uni, walk straight on the field. I mean, throw a one-hitter, strike out everybody. And we're not playing against a bunch of nobodies. And it's a bunch of college guys and pros and great D1 players. I mean, he come out and just eat it up. And we got to go to Wichita with that crew and had a blast. And so, I got to actually play ball as a young adult with guys that I had only heard about or barely knew. And we're legends around here and just great people. So that really made me, I think, want to stay closer to the game, and to try to teach a little bit and to coach a little bit and to give away, whatever I've learned, because I had such great mentors and examples, for me to follow.
Yeah. You were fortunate. You grew up with a lot of good men, a lot of good coaching at Northwest, and then just in that Jackson area at a time where there was a lot of good baseball knowledge going on. And
my dad was great. I have to say, my dad, there was mom and dad both, but my dad being an ball player, the expectation was, son, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it the best you can. There's no half-ass. There's no, three quarters. It's 100% every time. And whatever, if that 100% is here today, 100% has got to be here tomorrow. We're working up the ladder here, So there was that at a very young age. I was given the tools to have the drive too, I think. And I had the heart, I really coaching kids. You can kind of see some of them that don't really, they don't want it enough, and that's okay. Go be an engineer.
Yeah.
We need those folks. Be a doctor, but have fun playing the game. But some people have that edge, to them, and it's a fire and a little pissed offness, honestly. You want to be better than everybody. And that was my goal, was to be the best that ever played, kind of as the Roy Hobbs and the natural, well, I want to be the best that's ever played the game. Gee shucks, and so growing up with that mindset, that was anything I ever did in sports. I wanted to be the best. I can't say that I carry that over to, personal life and real life. I make way too many mistakes, and, I'm not as focused at times as I should be, and probably have too much damn fun. But if you put a ball in my hand, I'm ready now. I'm ready to go.
Yeah. I'm the same. You put to this day. My wife asked me, and I'm breaking down, and it's stupid, but it put me on even softball. Whatever it is, I've still.
Hey, I've learned that kickball's pretty dang competitive around here. Yeah, there's a big kickball league. I don't play in it, but it's
oh man,
pretty strong, man.
For us to get outside of golf to get kind of competitive about.
Well, do you play golf much?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, see, I spend time doing it. But my putting is so terrible, and it doesn't matter how much I try. And everybody in my family played golf, and they're like, "Man, why don't you play more?" I'm like, because I get so pissed. I mean, anybody that's played with me, and God rest his soul, a good buddy of mine, Jason Faris, who passed away. He played baseball at Vanderbilt. He was a dentist in Oxford. He and his wife were good friends of mine, and my dentist. My teeth went to shit for years after that because I couldn't bring myself to
anywhere else.
Yeah, I couldn't bring myself to do it, but. Jason and I would get in battles playing golf out here at Castlewoods. And I mean, a redhead in me, this kind of got every color in the rainbow of hair, and both extremely intense. I mean, I remember Luke, both of us threw our putter on the same hole and sunk it in the lake, and we're like, what are we going to do? So we putted with our 7-iron the rest of the day out. But so that competitiveness it carries over. My dad, he'll get so mad at me when we play golf. He's like, son, you got to calm down. I'm like, but you taught me this.
Yeah,
you got to calm down.
Help it. Can't turn it off.
Yeah. So, I have that that I can be a little edgy, I think.
Golf is golf is one of those sports where you definitely you got to have an edge, but you got to have that inner piece somewhere in it, because if not, man, if you blow up on a golf course, and I was the same, man. When I pitched, I made it to the junior college level. I didn't make it to the SEC level, but I was left-handed. And I always joke, people asked, how were you? And I go to the game where I was getting scouted in Legion ball. And for 4 innings, I had a perfect game going. And I walked out in the 5th, and I didn't throw another strike. I walked the bases loaded, walked the guy in, and the coach came out and said, what the hell? And I was like, I don't know,
lost my field, boss. That's what happens.
And if I would have been smart enough, then I should have said, Coach, I think I'm more suited for relief.
Man, that happens. It happens in college. And I can't speak for pro, but I can tell you college, I'd be out there cruising 6th inning, 7th inning. Once you get to that, it's no problem. It's that 4th or 3rd or, in that little middle innings. And you go out there, you warm up, everything feels good. And then you let one go and it hits the damn bull. And you're like, oh God, what happened? And it's in your head all of a sudden. The snake is just going in your head, bats banging around. You don't know what happened. And it takes about 6 or 7 pitches. Coach, throw strikes. Everybody, come on. You're like, if y'all just shut up for a minute, I might could get this. Then then you get, as you get older, you start getting that feel back in. You do a couple pickoffs to first, like, okay, let me see if I can hit the first baseman real quick.
And when you throw that,
and then I've got my feel back. So I know what you mean on that.
You're screwed.
Get the shanks throwing it. That's the worst. I've had it in golf. You hosel a few, toe a few. You hit one. The dude's on the tee box over here. And you just get around one real good, muscling it. You're like just hooks.
Yeah. And then all muscle memory's gone, and it's just a head game. Then
after that, that's the way of golf. I can't get back on the horse after I fall off of it. But well, enough about me.
Yeah.
I know you want to talk some sports and
we got some college football today. I know we got some. Man, we got a lot of big games. There's a big one on the Plains. I joke about it. I call it the Native American burial grounds. I want that to become famous. I say it, and I've said it in my writings. We say it in our podcast for 3 years. We say that because if anybody's ever watched a college football game at Auburn and you're not an Auburn fan, the craziest shit on earth happens at that stadium. And the fact that Ole Miss is playing there on Halloween Eve, I just assume the ghosts are going to be up at arms. So we got that big game, but there's a lot of big games heading into the day. Not so much in the SEC, which we are going to touch down on the cocktail party. We got Kentucky coming to Mississippi State, which could be a scary spot for Kentucky, but also a spot if they win it that could propel them to a season that they haven't had since Bear Bryant was coaching there. Outside of that, man, we got some big games up north in the Big Ten that are starting off the day. And that's, man, let's go right there. Michigan State. Everybody wrote off Harbaugh. He's the only Michigan coach ever to lose to Ohio State 5-6 straight years and keep his job. And I think everybody's kind of wrote him off. And he's quietly, man, Michigan's been really solid this year. And they're going as a 4.5-point favorite at another quietly solid team, undefeated Michigan State, man. Big game, Lance.
Yeah, we were laughing about that earlier today, and that it was, one of those that you look at and you go, okay, what am I missing here? Why is Michigan favored on the road? Michigan State's playing so well. They seem to have an explosive offense, which is, not traditional under a D'Antonio team. It's been more of the, kind of pro style that we've seen. And this year's fairly different. They've got a couple of guys that can go get it, a hell of a running back. Quarterback's playing at a high level for Michigan State. So you're going, what am I missing here? And I think it's what you just said with Harbaugh. He's had a hard time, with Michigan State, and still has his job. Yeah. They've taken care of business for the most part. I mean, the Nebraska game was, a kind of a clicker. It was close. You had Rutgers. They slink by them.
Yeah, that was a close one.
Yeah, but I mean, outside of that, they've handled their business well, and this will be a test, though. They took out Wisconsin fairly easily on the road, and so I guess to me that's I'm going with Michigan State mainly because I'm going to stick with the home team in this deal, and I think that D'Antonio's kind of had Harbaugh's number, but I could definitely see how the script could be flipped here, and Michigan could win this thing by 7 points, 10 points. But again, I think that I think it's Michigan State. And again, then you go, what happens if Michigan State wins this? Is this what you would consider somewhat of a interview for the LSU job, or has he done enough to truly be the front runner? Does Tucker?
Yeah, and it's Tucker. I don't know. That's a good question. And man, what struck me in this game, I actually, you look at Michigan State and you mentioned D'Antonio, and they've always kind of had that workman-like mentality. They were the run the ball and play much like Michigan's going to do. Michigan's the number one rushing team in the Big Ten, got one of the top defenses. But man, Michigan State's actually done it with Mel Tucker with the big play. It shocked me that they're 18th in the country in explosive plays, and they're tied for first in the country with 60 plus yard plays. I mean, I know they've got the Heisman candidate in Kenneth Walker at running back, which we all know who should win the Heisman. He's wearing red and blue.
Right now, right.
But no, I mean, this kid is in the game. But again, Michigan State's doing it with explosive plays. But the one thing that caught me is their rush defense is susceptible, and that's where Michigan gets their bread and butter. So it kind of makes me nervous, kind of like when Ole Miss struggled against Alabama. When a team can establish the run against a team that can't stop it, a lot of times you can take control of a ball game, and I think that's an area where Michigan could take control of this game. However, on the road, man, you've seen these road games this year. Home teams have had an advantage more this year, I believe, than – I think coming off that COVID year, it has made a difference. All these teams were playing in tunes, and now you're going back to these loud, crazy stadiums, and I think it has absolutely had an effect. So Michigan State at home, they're playing with a little bit of mojo. I'm with you. I think Michigan State keeps this close. But
you have the key ingredient, the Nebraska. Both have beaten Nebraska, but very close. I mean, this game's going to – I think that's the litmus test there you're looking at is where's the common opponent, and how does that play? You're talking about a 23-20 another, and Michigan beat, Nebraska very tightly as well. So no wonder this game is such a close game in the predictions, 4.5 4.5. So, I mean, it could go either way, but, again, that home team and these, the northern battles, these things are so historically tied together. And it's going to, Michigan's going to have a heyday if they get ahead, I think. That's the thing. If they can get out ahead and quieten that crowd, which is in many cases the dog on the road or the road traveler, you got to go out and find a way to shut the crowd up early, and
first punch.
Yeah, you absorb it and then go get your own and absorb another, go get it. And when you do that, I think, you have much greater chance. It's an early game. So we'll see. See who's awake. It'll be cold too, I'm sure.
Man, they're used to that though. They play all those games at that daggum time. It's so damn weird.
They're getting. This is when they all start playing better. I think. In the the cold, it's like my dogs, they're so fired up right now. You can't calm them down. That's the way these northern teams are like, oh, it's finally cold. We're ready to play football now.
I know we're supposed to have the Southern bias and we love the Southern football, but growing up, you saw so much of that football. I actually really enjoy the cold Northern games, man. I'm a huge fan of the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
Frozen.
Oh, I like all football. Yeah.
I
mean, the different styles.
Oh yeah,
and the different wardrobes you get to see. That's always fun. So
that's right.
Well, man, so, we got another. Up there, you get a bunch of ladies in like 8-layer of you got sweaters and all this stuff. You're like, is there a person under there? Down here you get it's like a show. It's there's a pageant going on.
I think we got prettier people to show. Sorry, Northern folks, they get prettier down here.
Well, at least they're not English up there, and everybody's got like 5 extra teeth. You know what I'm saying?
And we just rode off half the country, and now another the whole.
We got an island. Who knows? They if they're getting this over there, I said that hopefully that we'll get some kind of little thing over there. Like, what are you talking about? The English teeth? Yes, I am. I'm sorry. You gotta prod the beast sometimes.
Well, man, we've got another big one come. I think it kicks off at the same time in the Big Ten, and it's Iowa on the road at Wisconsin. I know that I say big one. Iowa touch.
That's a big game.
Iowa touch number 2. They get there and immediately get knocked off by Purdue in embarrassing fashion. Wisconsin is the team I cuss myself at every year because every year I start betting on them for some dumbass reason because I believe that they're good and they don't cover any spreads, and then I start hating them, and then they start getting better. They've played better in the last few games, but, man, Wisconsin is a slow team. They're favored by 3.5 at home with Purdue's number 9. Purdue had Iowa had an off week after that loss to Purdue.
Mm-hmm.
So getting their crap together, are they getting looked over with this line because of the Purdue loss, or did Purdue really expose Iowa for being a pretender?
Purdue did not impress me up until that game in any way, shape, or form. So, I think you caught Iowa overlooking a team potentially. Mm-hmm. Well-coached football team in Iowa. So I don't think that, you can be much slower than Wisconsin. So I think Iowa's probably going to have the advantage. But, I mean, unless they've, put those little ramp things on Wisconsin's field out on the wide side, like you get at the airport, what do you call those things? Like the little moving walkway. Yeah. Wisconsin, that's a slow-footed team. So it's just hard to watch them. To me, I think Iowa. Tickets are $37. So if you can go in and catch your flight up there, if you can make it, but that ought to be an interest. I mean, it's a beautiful setting, but I do think Iowa's the better team here in Wisconsin. They'll be right at 500 after this one's over with, and probably hang around that for the finish of the season. So, just not a very impressive Wisconsin team. But again, you can't rule out the home guy. In these types of matchups, they're big games and. They're going to have big crowds. So, again, Iowa goes up there and take the crowd out of that and put some points on the board, stuff Wisconsin a bit. And Iowa's got a good defense. So, didn't show against Purdue, but that's a good, well put together team. It's kind of like looking at an Ole Miss. Ole Miss gets beat by, Alabama pretty handily. Well, that's a superior opponent. You flip the script and you got an Iowa team that gets beat by an inferior opponent. So I don't think they're going to let down again. I think a better team can beat an Ole Miss, but I don't think you're going to see Iowa slip up and lose another game to an inferior opponent.
I'm completely with you on this. I think Wisconsin is an inferior opponent. I've watched them 3 or 4 times this year in depth because for wagering purposes, and every time was walked away less than impressed with what they've got. And again, I'm with you. I don't think Iowa lays an egg 2 times in a row, especially with the off week, gives Kirk Ferentz and that crew a week to get ready for this game. I think the most exciting thing, hopefully, for Wisconsin will be the jump around, which is cool. I do hope to see that in person one day. That's the thing I want to do. I want to make a trip around and see all these cool stadium things like the Virginia.
Oh, definitely.
Man opening. I want to jump around in Wisconsin and all that stuff. But I do think Iowa gets back off the mat this week and pops.
Well, yeah, they've beat 2 top 10 teams and then a top 20 team. So, I mean, the resume looks good. Yeah, and then you put that turd in a punch bowl of Purdue there at home.
But, hey, Bama had a road loss, lost to unranked A&M at the time. So you can't, you gotta see what they do on this. I'm like you. You can't one game's one game. And
Yeah.
I don't think was indicative of exactly who Iowa is this year. I also don't think they're the number 2 team in the country, but I don't think they're a 17-point loss to Purdue team either.
Yeah, I agree. That was ugly. I was sitting there rooting for it too. Going, okay, I kind of wanted to see them go down mainly because, I wanted to see how they'd respond. That's one of those teams there. It seemed like they were kind of cakewalking a little bit. They get tested, get punched in the mouth. Let's see how you come back. I'll be a bigger believer in them if they can rebound this weekend and take care of business with polish,
Yeah, as far as what the Big Ten has, man, I still think the Big Ten is a little bit of a step back right now from, going into the SEC, and we've got the cocktail party.
Mm-hmm.
Is that their first big SEC game? Do we not have a noon SEC?
I'm not sure. I think that's our first one. 2:30. I mean, I don't see a bigger game in there at all. Let's see earlier. No, Cincinnati, Tulane. That's woo. But that's not it.
Yeah, Tulane, man, look, spunky coming out against Oklahoma, and it's kind of just fizzled since. And man, I think who's their coach, man? He was kind of one of those coaches that was looking for a promotion. It might have lost it. He should have jumped ship last year on Tulane.
Yeah, Tulane's got to be a tough job. I don't care. People say whatever they want. New stadium, fertile recruiting, whatever. I mean, look at Vanderbilt. Private schools are just not going to have the consistency that you're going to see from a big D1, powerhouse, or especially when you're surrounded by powerhouses. So, I mean, Tulane's going to have that every 3, 4, 5 year team. Yeah, we're 11-0, and you're 11-1, they're 12-0 type teams, and they can rally around that. But I can't see how you can continue at that level. Cincinnati, I mean, what in the world? Where'd they come from? Pickle's a hell of a coach, obviously, because Cincinnati, I mean, you wouldn't imagine that's a team that can be 7-0 and number 2. I don't know if they're really number 2, but they're put together very well.
They're not number 2, but I mean, their best wins are on the road against Indiana. Indiana ran out of gas in the second half, and Indiana was beating them through the first half. And then they, Notre Dame, who I don't think is a great team, that's their best 2 wins. What's the line on that? I'm imagining it's pretty big in the 20s.
Yeah, it was 19, and I'd take sense. And let me
absolutely.
Look.
If you're going to be,
it's either 19 or 24. Let me get back to where I was. Well, I'm taking Cincinnati if it was 40.
It's what? Oh, yeah. Cincinnati knows that every team out there or every sports person.
27.5.
Oh, wow. That's a lot.
I'd still take Cincinnati at 27. Tulane just doesn't impress me. That early game, like you said, against Oklahoma was a fluke and an anomaly. I don't see it. And,
I think Cincinnati knows the storyline out there. They know they got to impress folks.
You got to put the pedal down. Yeah.
They know
you got to keep rolling. And there's no way you can slow down being in the AAC. You got to start putting up 60 points a game, as you keep finishing out the season. You got a handful of games left. Cincinnati, if they want to be taken seriously as this finishes up, they're going to have to boat race some people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Same thing like you said, Wake Forest, they're undefeated, still not getting love. They're going to have to put up 70 like they did last week against Army. They're going to have to.
Yeah. That was insane. I mean, was that 11 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah,
I think by the time I tuned it in, there was probably 70 points already.
Oh, yeah.
It was something. I hadn't seen a game like that, and I didn't watch a lot of it. But enough of it. Yeah. What's that?
Yeah, against someone like Army, no less. Oof.
Man, I mean, yeah, no doubt. I was like, wow, I haven't seen anything like this. Secondly, I mean, the 2 teams scoring at that volume throughout a game is crazy. I mean, they tell you, Wake Forest defense, I mean, it may not be very good. Yeah. So when you actually play somebody, I have a tendency to believe they're going to get popped.
A fast-paced offense. Slow the game down. That's insane.
They were just blowing doors. I mean, it was just holes as big as a truck to run through. So wasn't very impressed with Wake. Their offense is legit, though. I mean, they can score points, but they kind of remind you of the Ole Miss defense last year, where they just can't stop anybody. You got to outscore everybody.
You got to hope your offense don't miss a beat every Saturday, which hopefully we're not at that point. I'm starting to get a little bit of confidence in our defense up there in Oxford.
Well, when we've shown we can tackle and stuff the run early, the Ole Miss defense is, as you would expect, is formidable. However, you start dropping 8 and playing prevent, and guys are 10 yards open, and you got these gazelle receivers in the SEC that are going to, I mean, you give a guy 7 yards on the catch, so you're 7 yards from hitting the guy. Some of these guys are pretty good. A lot of those guys at receiver are going to be able to make a move and get around. They're skilled. And so, that's the one knock. You see these teams playing such a soft, prevent.
Well, and so much in Ole Miss's history, we've had if something wasn't working, it didn't seem like the coaches ever changed. They kept trying to stick the square peg in the round hole, and as a fan, it'd make you go mad. And it seems like Kiffin and company actually, not that they listen to the fans, but they actually pay attention to what's not working. And Kiffin will say, hey, running the 3-2-6 out of the base package all night against a power running team's not going to work. We're going to have to bring some guys in the box. Well, we did it against Tennessee, and it improved. We did it against LSU, and it improved some more. We're really going to have to do it tonight because when you face Tank Bigsby and Jarquez Hunter, man, you better bring your lunch pail because Tank Bigsby is that old school back you saw from your days down at Auburn that they've always had. They've always had a Stephen Davis or a Carnell Williams or a Brandon Jacobs or a Rudy Johnson or that dude that just punches you in the mouth. And, man, if for a defense, like you said, I know we're getting on the Ole Miss tangent before I want to, but
we're talking defense. I mean, and that's the thing. There's a lot of – we discussed this yesterday, and, defenses are scared to hit. I think that's part of the problem. Ole Miss's defense in the first couple games before the targeting penalties, and you have 3 in one game. I mean, that's absurd.
Change your mindset.
Put the little cushions on the helmets that you see in practice. Make everybody wear that, but that's ridiculous for the game to have sunk that far in contact where you're going, well, we're trying to protect this and look, you're signing up.
People are showing up for gladiators.
It's a gladiator sport.
The gladiators in the old days got eaten by tigers and got put back in cages. These dudes can make a lot of money. They know what they're signing up for. Like this is,
and they want it. That's you want contact. You want to play the game that way, or you could go play something else. You go play intramural flag football. I snuck out and played that.
I get trying to prevent the Chucky Mullins hit. I get that. But, man, some of this stuff, like the one that Mark Robinson went out on the first of the year when the running back ducked his head in the Louisville game, or what you saw Auburn, they lost one of their star defensive players a few weeks ago in the same week that Alabama lost Malachi Moore in the first quarter against A&M on really questionable hits. And you're like, damn, man.
Yeah.
And again, people start getting pissed at the defensive coordinators and getting pissed that the defenses aren't what they used to be. And why can't we tackle? Well, man, your mindset's changed when 3 kids get kicked out of a game in the first quarter or first half for they tackle.
Yeah, and key players. It's not like the scrub that came in and just said, hey, I'm going to spear somebody. You don't see, every now and again, you'll see an intentional targeting. That's the stuff that should be called, not the unintentional head clicking or the running back drops his head or the receiver, and you get this clicking of helmets, and you go, oh, God, well, there's helmet to helmet. That's, something that you can't control in football. You can control the spear where the head drops and you're coming in to try to, take somebody out. I understand that. It's like the old clothesline, Lyle Alzado and those guys, some dude running by them.
Oh, man, look at those old films, and they give the people today freaking.
I agree. The game doesn't need to be that violent, but you have to allow these guys to hit. Look at the pro game.
Well, and speaking of hitting, there's one team that apparently has figured out the defensive thing better than anybody else this year, and they're playing in that cocktail party at 2:30, 3:30 in my time zone, and that's the Georgia Bulldogs. Good Lord, man. If anybody has figured out how to play fast, aggressive defense, I haven't seen their guys getting called for targeting. Georgia set the standard for, what have they given up 2 touchdowns this year? It's just been absurd.
2 touchdowns
today.
Well, Kentucky, really it's kind of a game to me similar to the Ole Miss Alabama game, the Kentucky Georgia game. Kentucky had an opportunity in that ball game to do a little more, couldn't do it. Same Ole Miss, couldn't convert on the 4th and 1, couldn't catch the touchdown against Bama to make that ball game a little bit more palatable for the fan of Kentucky or Ole Miss. But then you got, this Florida team that's pesky. They're physically put together. They have not lived up to the expectation in billing yet. The problem with that is, you start looking over here at Dan Mullen and you end up around 500 at Florida, and your butt can get fired, quickly. really sustained success there is not something they're used to, other than really with one coach, and his name's Steve Spurrier. Don't tell me that Urban Meyer sustained anything. He did it for a little bit, and then the wheels popped off, and that's what's going to happen everywhere that dude
he
goes.
saw what was coming.
Yeah, well, I mean, Ohio State and the Jaguar. I mean, it's going to happen wherever he goes. He's not Nick Saban, so you got his clone down there in Mullen. And again, I'm not a big Mullen. I'm not a huge fan. However, I don't want him to lose out.
I've somehow become a Mullen fan, and
all of a sudden I'm pulling for
likes my coach.
Yeah, I'm pulling for him and Megan.
Megan, kiss those boys. Give them an extra sugar.
So, yeah, please, I'm hoping that Florida can pull this out. I don't think they're going to. Georgia's too good. Georgia's defense is one of the more salty defenses I've seen. Physical, big, defensive front that is literally like having a cinder block wall in there. They don't let you score. They bend a little, and then they hit you in the mouth. It's not pretty for opposing offenses. The other side of that is I'm not quite sure Georgia has seen the type of quarterbacks that Florida has. I mean, these are bruiser types. And, I mean, even Emory, who's shown that he can throw the ball around a little bit more. And then, the other one that nobody wants to mention.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a stud. I mean,
I don't understand what's going on down there, and I think that's the big question: is I think I know Richardson's had a little bit of injury problem when he in one of the game for a week or two, but I don't understand what Mullen's doing here.
I think Mullen's a little crazy to begin with, honestly. I mean, from us paying such attention to him at Mississippi State, if you were an Ole Miss fan, I think this is the right type of game where he does get his team up better, games with huge meaning, a rivalry. It didn't happen with the LSU game. So I'm thinking you may see a more focused Florida team here in another kind of rivalry setting. He'll be coaching for his job. Maybe he's hoping James Franklin bolts Penn State since, he hired Sexton this week, and Mullen may could, kind of skate back up north and get into the Penn State job. Who knows what he's thinking? But his seat is getting very warm, and I think this is a game that Florida really will have a chance to play well, but I don't think that – I just don't feel that they're going to have the firepower to overcome the stout defense of Georgia. Then you got this Stetson Bennett, no one thought that kid could put together the type of stuff he's done, and he's just been out there being, solid performer.
Well, and interesting talk about JT coming back this week.
Right, he's healthy. He threw the ball around a bit a couple weeks ago. Had a pretty good little show, and I think he's 100%. So I believe they're going to go with Bennett to start. If there's any rough patches in there, I would expect to see Daniels. And again, that's another one of those things. They're doing so well with their number 2 guy, who Stetson Bennett the 8th. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's not your prototypical guy, but if you listen to him and watch him, he's a heck of a competitor. He's very clean. He's got good feet, and he makes the throws that you need him to make. And when you have a defense like that, it doesn't take a Matt Corral, to go win games for you.
No, and that's the thing. He hadn't been forced to win a game yet. I want to see Georgia to be forced to win a game before they face Alabama. Or
I would love to see that today.
In the SEC championship. And Florida, look, man, they put it together against Alabama, and Alabama is a legit team. I don't care what anybody says, and Alabama was ready for that. That Florida game was a big game. I'm very interested to see, outside of the Clemson game, which Georgia's offense didn't score a point, they haven't been forced to throw the ball, and they haven't been forced to do stuff offensively outside of just be a 1982 vanilla power eye offense where they keep.
That's right.
Off. Now, if Florida's run defense that showed up against LSU 2 weeks ago shows up, it might not matter again because Georgia's going to run it down their damn throat. On the flip side, Florida has the offense. If Richardson can get going, Mullen can. I have a sneaky feeling this game's going to be a little closer, and I maybe not because it's hope, but I just kind of got a sneaky feeling. Mullen having a week off, Florida may put something together. I don't know. I'm crazy. The line's 14.5. Georgia's proven all these big lines wrong. They've covered every one of them this year, but for some reason, I just I don't know. Got a sneaky feeling. Mullen put something together, and again, that's not like you said. We kind of Ole Miss fans better start cheering for him again. Every coach on the hot seat at a big program is gonna going to come knocking at our door apparently. But I don't know.
Well, if you want that, if you win, that's going to happen. But, you hear a lot of fans always talking about, oh, man, lock them up, do this, pay them more money. I mean, quite frankly, if you win and you're successful, somebody's coming after your coach. It may not be college, could be pro. Somebody's coming. So you better be ready.
Oh, yeah.
We discussed the NIL stuff, joking around the other day, and the expansion of playoff conference expansion and relevancy in those things. And, a coach that's happy where he is, getting paid enough, having great success, if he chooses to take another job, say a more blue-blooded job, more power to him. I understand it's motivations. However, I do think that patience, if you're winning at a place now that's already got a seat in, at the table, proverbially, maybe say Ole Miss or State doesn't have a real seat at the big boy table. But as you start seeing expansions and realignments and things happen, I think you're going to find yourself just by default at the table. You just got to go win some damn games,
And you got to know that, like you said, playoff expansion's coming. It's inevitable. With the way the shift in college football and the power structure, where you're about to see Oklahoma and Texas join the SEC, you're going to see other mergers with other conferences. It's about to be an NFL-like situation. So the playoffs is going to expand, and you're kind of sitting on a golden ticket if you're Mississippi State or Ole Miss or Missouri,
Kentucky, Arkansas, Missouri,
everybody outside of Vanderbilt. You have a chance to say, hey, all we got to get is the top 16. We don't have to make the SEC. You don't have to make Atlanta anymore. Atlanta's about to become completely irrelevant.
Right. I think with teams like Vanderbilt, though, the reality, though, is you got all these smart lawyers and doctors up there. You got the NIL stuff now. Go figure it out. There'll be plenty of money. There's plenty of opportunity for the Vandies to be relevant. They're just not going to do it. I can assure you. They don't care. This apathy in a program like that, and you're going to say, well, the SEC needs teams like that. They need people just to get their butt kicked, I guess. Bring in another one, maybe. You know what I'm saying? Somebody, you got to have some marked up losses, wins out there for your team. But again, there's no excuse for Vanderbilt not to be able to go out and compete and get some key players. For example, you go get,
you're recruiting in the SEC.
Yeah, you got that going for you. Now you got an opportunity. If you go out and win 10 games, then you can be in that conversation at the end. If you're not out there building, these NIL deals and working this to bring in more talent, then you might as well just say to heck with it. We're here. We're playing club ball. We'll take our paycheck, but we really don't care.
Well, and listening to, McCready and them were talking about it a lot this week. And I didn't realize that they had an opportunity to expand with the Major League Soccer team and get a new stadium. And what kind of draw is that? It's almost like they don't give a shit and they're getting $45 million a year. At some point, you got to, I want to, I like the easy win. We need them. But
I love an easy win. Vanderbilt's given us so much hell over the years that, it's nice to see somebody down in the league where you're not every week going, good God. Is there a break? Yeah. I was telling my buddy the other day, I was like, look, we need that LSU game. We need an easy win. We need an easy weekend. And, the first drive doesn't turn out very well for Ole Miss. It looks like it's going to be kind of a hard-fought game there. And then eventually Ole Miss starts pulling away from LSU, only to make it nasty at the end. But that was the kind of game.
I'm the worst Ole Miss fan in those situations. I was sitting there saying, here we go. It's it.
Oh, no. The fan comes out in me. The Ole Miss fan definitely comes out in me. I'm throwing stuff, and I'm Debbie Downer. And
I told my wife when LSU was about to go up 14-0, I said, this game's over. They're about to blow it out of the damn stadium.
Yeah. Oh, man, here we go.
Mad. I'm so dang mad. And here we
With the Mannings in. The Mannings are here. I'm in here. They hit some. Gosh, dang it. I'm mad.
But I've been texting with Poe about this after our interview last week. And I will say this. There have been a few teams where Ole Miss has started to kind of make you believe. And that's not what we're used to in football, but we did it. The Eli had a team or two where you just kind of believed every Saturday they were going to start to win. That 2009 year, man, you kind of started to believe. After that LSU game where they took that punch in the mouth, and then Tennessee the week before, man, that storm got kind of loud there in Knoxville early, and we got down and weathered it and came back and won. Well, the same thing with LSU. It looked like the team with the better athletes were going to do what they've done the previous several years against Ole Miss. They were just going to out-athlete us and rough us up and down the field. And, you weather the storm, punch them back in the mouth, and the defense kind of rises to the occasion, starts getting 3 and outs. you've got a lot of players hurt and you've got other guys stepping up and you're like, holy hell, maybe this team is a little different. And
I think they are. I mean, you got a guy behind center that makes you different. You know, he's so phenomenal. When we talk about, if you watch a lot of quarterbacks and you really start watching some of the best players in college football, even in the pro game, what you're looking for is cleanliness in how they do things, the crisp, clean, knowing what they're doing, able to see their job unfold, you know, before. It's like with a running back. They know the great ones see holes way before others do. A great quarterback is getting to the third and fourth read before a good quarterback's getting to the second read. They're seeing things early, and they're watching guys playing and jockeying the safeties move and try. Corral's gotten behind, last year, made some mistakes, and you see that motivation allowed him to get better, to get into the film study, to work harder, to ask to be coached differently. And when you have that kind of drive, you can see the byproduct of it when you have the coaching to go with the drive and the talent. And to me, you look at a Corral, there's not a cleaner, more efficient and crisper quarterback that is processing this information so quickly as he is right now. That can change, obviously, every game's different. But he's obviously playing at a level where, NFL scouts have got to be going, God, just don't get hurt. Please, this kid, he keeps just moving up, even without the players.
Every time he runs, you get nervous. But, dude, he reminds me so much of running, and this is going to go way back. He reminds me of the way Tom Luke runs the ball. Like when Tom Luke ran the option, he was looking to take a guy down with him and run straight through him. And that's how Matt's like, it's – you get nervous every time, but that's a part of his game. And that's, on that 4th and 3 against LSU where he's scrambling out and faking the throw and then he just dives in, if he doesn't have that mentality, we're not making those plays. And that is what's making him different.
Well, he's the difference maker right now, honestly. I ran the option. So, Tom Luke was an idol of mine growing up, watching him run it. And we ran the power I or the I option usually was our base. So watching a guy as a quarterback that, playing at 6'2", 208 pounds, going out there and delivering blows like that and popping up, he's sore. He's not playing 100% all the time. I mean, the guy's, ran it 30 times a couple of weeks ago. He's still reeling from that. I promise you. You don't just – a quarterback doesn't run the ball 30 times if that's not something they're used to. You watch a Chris Relf do that a few years, back under – that guy's 6'4", 250. That's what he does, Tebow never laid down, slid in a game. I mean, that's what that bull did. I mean, he was a dang bull. But, you watch him throw the ball, looked like he was, throwing wiffle balls or something. Yeah. So
Matt Corral, and that's the thing, Matt Corral, then you add the Tom Luke running with the Chad Kelly arm.
Right.
And what appears to be the drive and the poise. He's got the poise of anybody we've ever had at quarterback, man. When he's impressive.
Yeah. Very impressive. I haven't seen anybody in my lifetime that has played at this level, as long. You're looking at spanning 2 seasons now.
Man, look at the moments, though. He comes in against Mississippi State, hasn't played. John Rice Plumlee's become the quarterback. He comes in and drives us down the field. I mean, for everybody, the piss and miss completely overshadowed the fact that Matt came in that game and drove us down the field and made a huge 4th down play. And then
I love the way they write off quarterbacks. People write off quarterbacks if they're not perfect day one. And, same with the Luke Altmaier or anybody, any number 2 or 3 out there. Look, most of these kids do not come in from high school ready to play SEC freaking football.
Hey,
first of all, your body's not even. Look at Matt Corral as a freshman or a sophomore. He looked like he's 170 pounds. Well,
let's look across the field. Bo Nix, he was a 5-star kid out of high school. They expected Bo Nix to be, Joe Montana out of there, John Elway out of the gate when the kid started, and he's caught a lot of heat over there in the state of Alabama because he didn't live up to expectations because he didn't do it his freshman and sophomore year. Like you played, it's not something you just hop in and do. Not everybody does what the kid over at Bryce Young at Alabama is doing. That's a special breed to come in and be able to do that young.
And there's a reason why he was, so highly thought of. I mean, I can't say that Bo Nix was or wasn't a 5-star. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. The quarterback, though, if you're a 5-star quarterback, the misconception is that guy should be ready to go day one. Bullshit. Yeah. That ain't no. Maybe if you're a running back or a wide receiver or offensive lineman, but I don't think that a 5-star quarterback, mainly because they're a 5-star, comes in as a freshman and the old 5-star rating system means that should be game ready to go. Maybe against a inferior opponent where you let them go out and play and learn, but the game is very fast at that level. And it takes time for it to slow down. I can even say, you look at Will Rogers at Mississippi State, he played a lot as a freshman, struggled some, but again, the game started to slow down for him later in the season. And, now it's starting to settle for him. And he's, you see him making the plays and not making the mistakes and pressing things. But that comes with playing. It doesn't come with showing up and practicing, so it takes time. And Nix is one of those guys that I still think there's a lot more to him. He's got a lot of ability. He comes from a great pedigree, and he's a legacy at a place, which is hard to do. You're playing under the shadow of your father at the place that he played. I was there when Nick threw the touchdown against Alabama, and we went 11-0 at Auburn in probation. And so there's legends there, just like the Ole Miss.
And there's a lot of pressure in the state of Alabama, especially at Auburn, because you are always looking up to Alabama. And when you come in as that legacy that beat Alabama, hey, this is our kid that's going to take us to beat the,
he's going to do it for us. We're going 11 or 12-0. We're doing it. What? I mean, maybe not. Expectations can be the thing that, really get in the way of reality. Expecting too much. You go out there and play reality. This is where we are. This is what we can do to win. Take what the defense gives us. And with Nix, he's had a tendency, like Corral last year, to force things instead of allowing, what is there in front of you. I think he's done a better job of that in the last few games after getting benched. And let's hope he reverts back to some of the risk-taking that he has done. And let's hope Corral doesn't and continues on the upward path of, being smooth, crisp, clean, and making great decisions. So, Auburn, a guy that went there, the first time I ever went into Jordan Hare for a game, it was like, oh my God, I've been in on my recruiting visit, but the place is basically a metal structure with concrete outside, and that place, the whole building, it just shimmies and shakes, and
it's loud.
It is loud. Metal flooring basically, and so it's kind of like an erector set, with concrete out around the out. But man, that place will get to shaking and swaying, and you think that it's about to cave in. And it's wild. It's wild. And one of the great college atmospheres, with the Tiger Walk and all that. And then Toomer's Corner, just the wonderful little town. The Eagle, so cool. Going over the little thing and seeing the eagle, and, it's just like going down and seeing the tiger, at LSU.
And then somebody's doing some seance before the game to get all those damn Indian spirits to wake up and start messing with the football.
It's kind of like the voodoo train at LSU baseball.
Man, there's
17, and you better be up by 15 against LSU when the train comes through, because something crazy happens and they start playing ball. So let's hope the same day. I hope the voodoo doesn't happen today at Auburn, and Ole Miss brings their A game, because it's a big game for Ole Miss and Auburn, both. It's a huge game for both.
Well, shoot, either one of them's in the driver's seat. Heck, Alabama's got a loss. I don't expect Bama to lose again, but you got to let the season play out, and you got something happens. And both these teams have, one. Who was Auburn's one loss was to Georgia, so ours is Bama. We both got one loss in the SEC, and Auburn lost to Penn State earlier in the year. So there's a lot to play for both these teams.
I'm
going to go. Doesn't have a good history at Auburn. I get, man. The fan in me comes out in this. The two I remember us winning. In Tuberville's first year down there with Corey Peterson's big catch in the end zone, and then I remember Eli winning, but a lot of that had to do with Ben Amanamanu. Never going to say that kid's name right, dropping the ball in the end zone.
Yeah.
And, it's not been a place that's been very friendly to Ole Miss, and they get all the it seems like everything crazy happens at that stadium. I know the Bama fans, I know the Georgia fans that are listening are shaking their head like, yeah, we've seen it.
There's something about it. It's a crazy place, and it's electric too. Huge atmosphere as far as the size of everything. And it's a loud group of fans. It's just one of those places you don't want to go in Quite frankly, you're the opposing team. You're not going, yeah, I want to go to Auburn this year. I want to go to LSU, or those aren't. And there's not many of those in the SEC. I mean, Missouri, Vanderbilt.
There's a reason they're
Missouri
favored
right
now.
They get a little loud. Kentucky when they're good. I mean, there's not really many places in this league you want to go on the road. This is one Ole Miss has not got a great history. However, I do think this Ole Miss team's a little special. I think this win is it's under the microscope. It's such a big key piece of the season for Ole Miss, and I think Kiffin knows that. I think Corral knows that. I think the team knows that. The question is, who's going to step up on offense to help your quarterback? Which receiver is going to be available? There's a slew of them, but who is it going to be? Number two, are you going to see Snoop Connor do the things that he's done to really allow Corral to not have that 350-yard passing day, without the receivers? You're going to have the running back core, but predominantly Snoop, because against a formidable front, I believe you're going to need to see Snoop Connor have a pretty hell of a good day there. Not to say that Ely and Parrish aren't extremely important, but they're more of your scat guys. And Auburn's going to stack it on you at times, and they're going to force you to run. They're going to drop 8, and they're going to force you to run at them. I hope that we're able to do that from an Ole Miss fan perspective. From an Auburn, if Auburn can go out there and limit those things, do not allow Ole Miss to run the football very well and isolate the receivers into, and try to make Corral make mistakes, which he has not done this year. The recipe there is, I think, on both sides. It's Ole Miss is going to have to make the plays, and Auburn is going to have to keep the ball in front of them. You can't allow the explosive plays, which Ole Miss is in the last few weeks. It hasn't really had those huge explosive plays. So this game could be very good and tight. However, I think if you see Ole Miss hit a couple big ones on them early, this game could get out of hand pretty quick in the favor of Ole Miss, because the explosiveness of that offense. If the defense can play, and again, limit the big plays, Tank Bigsby and Jarquez Hunter, those guys can run it over you. They can run it over you, around you. And Nix, again, is a guy that he's similar to Corral, has the wheels, has the ability to make big plays. And so, but I think Ole Miss, my gut would be Ole Miss by 7, in this game. However, that's wishful thinking too. That's part of the fan coming out in me. I have to say that.
Man, and that's where I'm the bad fan. I'm not, this is one where if we win, I'm going to be pleasantly surprised. I'm hoping that with the line being on Auburn and moving up their way, and the majority of the money being on Auburn, that's a good sign for Ole Miss. I'm also hoping that this is, like you said, this is one of those teams that's a little special. They're a little different. That it's not the Ole Miss teams in the past where they get your hopes up and then take you out of the woodshed and kick you in the manhood. And
I think this is where you find that out. That's the game today. This is the one, because from here forth, you make your own destiny. You have the schedule sets up pretty nicely, but and this is the toughie.
And this is the biggest trap. You're going to a place where you traditionally haven't played well. It's I
would call it terrible. Your results there have been terrible.
And Auburn's coming off of a bye week, and we're hobbled, man. So there's a lot of injuries.
I'm hoping they're a little rusty. that you can jump on them quick. Ole Miss seems to have a much better in the past. The last couple of weeks hadn't been against Tennessee and LSU. You had some struggles early, and then you kind of found a way. I'm hoping. If Ole Miss is going to come out of the gate and play strong, I think it gives them a much better chance to weather the storm that comes, and it's going to come in that second half.
Oh yeah, I agree. It's going to be, man, it's going to be one of those buckle up, because it's not. I don't see us. I would love to see us pull away and make it comfortable. I'd love one of those type games. I don't perceive it there. Yeah. I don't.
Then you got Kentucky and State similar. Almost the same kind of setup. With Kentucky coming in underdog, but yet they're 6-1. I don't think the cowbell makes that much different. Although I am a big fan of more cowbell, at least the skit, and Colonel Angus too. Those are two great skits. But I don't think the cowbell is going to make that big a difference. Against Kentucky, I think Kentucky's going to win this one by 7 on the road. They're going to solidify their spot as number 2 in the East, and State's going to revert back to around that 500 mark. I felt that they would end up with this year. I figured they could be a 7-5 to 5-17, and they're on pace for one of those. It's right in there. And I think that's where you are with Mississippi State. They seem to be getting a little better, learning the system a bit. But when it takes you 12, 14 plays every time to score, and, I think that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
Is also, you got to have some explosiveness, and State just hasn't shown that ability at all. Going up against a kid like Rodriguez, who's a heck of a running back.
Yeah.
State, I just don't know. I don't feel it today for Mississippi State. It's not being negative, to my Mississippi State brethren out there, but I think Kentucky's going to win this one by 7.
Really? Well, man, look, there's no doubt Kentucky's the better team, been the more solid team. They're just a better football team. State's been very inconsistent. State's actually been better on the road than they have at home, which is odd. You would think the Bells.
Yeah, they like those whites, man. They like wearing them whites. I can't wait for them to pull out that whatever the special jersey is. It maybe this weekend. I can't remember. It looks like it's purple. It's gray and purple. Please, I can't wait to see that.
Oh, they're different shades of maroon. But I tell you what, man, this is a tricky spot for Kentucky. They did get a week off after getting pounded by Georgia, where Cavassier Smoke and Rodriguez got stymied. Rodriguez had 7 yards. Smoke had like 10. Levis, he threw like 56 times for 200 or 300 yards, but Georgia was just really good. I don't expect State to stymie them like that, but State does always have a nasty defense. I expect it to be a dog, no pun intended, to be a dog fight there for a while. It's going to be rowdy in Starkville. Look, it's Halloween Eve in Starkville too, so those people dress up scarily enough for normal games. God knows what that scene's going to look like. I do think Kentucky pulls away possibly late, just because Stoops is a solid coach, man. And again, State's just. I think they're a good team. I don't think they're a great team, and I think Kentucky's above average team. So I think because of the way State plays, they're going to stay in it and keep it a close game. But I think Kentucky finds a way. I don't think they win it by 7. I think they win it by 2 or 3, or about a field goal or so. But I don't know, man. I could see State winning that game. I don't know why.
Oh, I can too. I mean, again, I can see them pulling it and winning it at the same time. I think this is a different type of Kentucky team. I think it's one of those that's found ways to win. They can adjust within a game a bit, like you said. I mean, quarterback threw it for 50 times roughly, against Georgia, and you had no rushing attack. So I think they'll rebound from some of those types of things. And I think it'll be a little more balanced today. And, State, again, I just think they're a 500 team this year. That was kind of my gut feeling going in. I think it'll be another year before you see Leach's system really kind of take off. And I don't mean take off. I mean, is it going to be something where he can recruit to and have the type players he needs to run it consistently? Because running the football 10 or 12 times a game, you better have some damn good receivers out there. I don't see they've got some solid receivers, but they're not game changers.
Polk's a good receiver. That kid can play, but I mean,
Wally's good, Polk's good, but again, you're not seeing like Trayvon Burks type guys.
No,
you're going to have to find a star in that offense in this league. This isn't Texas Tech, and this isn't Washington
just
State.
Doesn't fit, man. It just does not. The Mississippi State we grew up with is not what we're seeing. And State just has always had a mentality in my lifetime of that dog mentality. It fits their mascot, man. They're going to punch you in the mouth. They're going to try to play dirty, play rough, physical football. And this is just, it's just so square peg, round hole. It's not funny, and it just.
Well, I would be very doubtful if he's even had a block of the cheese or any of the whole milk or Leach. He seems more like a bourbon and Coke guy at about 9 in the morning. So I don't know if he's really embraced the culture yet. But who knows? I mean, it like you said, I think it's kind of a square peg, round hole. It's not going to be the State most fans are used to seeing with dominant defense and a adequate offense. He's trying to change that around. And again, this is a funny matchup because it kind of comes full circle back to, where Leach really, had his, the test of the offense with he and Mummy at Kentucky with Tim Couch, and it's something he's trying to bring back 20-something years, 30 years later to a team that is a traditional running defense team. And I mean, it's kind of like oil and water right now, I think. And we'll see if he can turn the corner. I'm not one that thinks the air raid's going to work every game. I think it's going to be a 5-7 to 7-5 type of offense unless you have an absolute lights out defense. And I don't see Leach putting in that kind of time recruiting, honestly, to get that kind of a defense.
I think he's in the Keys mentally more than he's in Starkville or on the recruiting trail. And he never was a big recruiter. He's been he coached, he's a molder and coacher and pick guys to fit his system, and that's not going to work in this league. And so I'm very
I don't believe it will, but hey, I'm pulling for. I like the guy. Think he's an interesting person.
Dude, I'm dead on. Candy corn sucks. I love three in a box. I'm not with him on Almond Joy. I'm a more of a Twix kind of guy. I love his candy. I love Leach's takes. Keep him there forever. He's a funny ass quote.
I love listening to him grumble. Pretty good.
He's apparently the floor Bama. He's closer to that than he was when he was at Washington State, so that's good.
Yeah, he's something though. I mean, again, I would have. It's something I think a lot of Ole Miss fans wanted him 5-7 years ago. I think it'd been a good move then. I think now it's.
Oh, I wanted him. I was one of them. I'm glad it didn't work out because
me too. Sometimes the best prayers are the unanswered ones.
Well, I mean, it was also the time where it was better than the alternative. But no, I'm glad. Hey, man, I'm choo-choo. It worked.
I'm on the Lane train. I'm a big fan. I always liked Kiffin, even before he got to Ole Miss. I was really one of those that was hoping that we would be an interesting enough job for him to consider. Landing him, to me, was like lightning. I'm like, this is awesome, man. This guy's crazy as far as his the perception people have about Lane Kiffin. It seems so off. He kind of has that crazy. But I was like, no, this guy, I think he could do very well at Ole Miss and do it quickly. And I thought Lane was going to be a little more stable here than most people thought. So far, so good. But, it's like Orgeron down and, the wheels can pop off quickly. And you never know what causes that. So,
you make a call to a massage parlor and all of a sudden it's off in one night. And hell, you're sitting at dinner with your family.
Now you're getting rehabbed under Jerry Falwell Jr. So,
God bless. That doesn't even – I can't – Hugh Freeze being at Liberty right now –
that's just, to me, it's sacrilegious almost, but whatever, hey, good for him. Glad he's coaching. Freeze is a fine coach, but it just seems to be an awfully odd fit at Liberty of all places, who's wanting to play big boy football all of a sudden, And all right, whatever. We'll see how that goes.
They get their chance next week. They got their ass kicked. They've lost to Terry Bowden and our old offensive coordinator Rodriguez already this year. So I don't.
Well, and I on the message board, I'll say this: I think the Liberty game against Ole Miss, and I'm not looking forward out to it, but I think it will be a very interesting environment around Oxford. And people are like, why would you say that? Because Hugh Freeze coming back. We still got fans in Oxford that want this guy back.
That like him.
And you're going, come on. What do you think?
That don't realize the shit burger we've been eating the last 3 years, he fixed.
Yeah, he cooked it for us. Yeah, he made it out of a big pile of poop. And,
the Sugar Bowl was great.
Yeah, not Cotton Bowls. That's about the same thing. What's Houston Nutt doing now? Not coaching football. Thank God not at Ole Miss. But, neither here nor there. I was a Nutt fan while he was winning. I was a Freeze fan while he was winning. I saw the limitations at the same time. I saw the limitations in that. But, while you're winning, you're going, hey, he's our guy. But
Nutt was the one that I was never on board with. Like, I remember when I was in Atlanta and in that Omni Center when it got announced he was the coach. And I sat down and I sat down just so sad. I was like, you got to be damn kidding me. That's who.
My sister texted me like, oh, we got the Nutter. I'm like, oh, God, no. That dude, I just didn't like him. He got to Ole Miss, and, we won some games. I said, okay, I'll pull for him. He proved that he could win and proved that he couldn't. So
yeah, he proved he could win with a dude that recruited. Yeah. Much like you said about Leach, he just didn't want to recruit. So, it was such
at least cut 20 guys, I think, down at State. So, replacing that quickly is damn near impossible at this level unless you get a waiver that allows you to sign 50 kids. And, State is going to take State time to, recruit. And I just don't, like you said, I don't think he's going to recruit like that. I think Ole Miss is going to be a great benefactor. And something that's helped State over the last 20 years is, as we said the other day, Southern Miss's irrelevance. Yeah. When Southern Miss was fairly relevant in this state, So, I mean, Ole Miss, Mississippi State weren't very good. You look now, you've pushed Southern Miss aside. There's two main programs here, and both Southern Ole Miss and State seem to have years where they can be very relevant. They have achieved more than what they were doing for years and decades. So, you see the demise of one, maybe helps others. And that's what you'll see with the SEC is going to keep getting richer. It's going to keep getting richer as the others, are trying to keep up and have been, basically standing still for too long. SEC is an upward momentum league, and you better be grabbing and climbing.
You get left. Yeah, you get left.
That's right.
And we've done that before. We've gotten behind the 8 ball for years and years and had to play catch up. And hopefully that's
I'm not paying no damn coach $1 million. Well, yeah.
Now you better be paying. Yeah, you better be paying the strength coach that now, Holmes.
Yeah, he's a boss, man.
Yeah, I love.
He whooped some frat dude's butt in college and then got sued for it. And I'm pulling for him. Like, you whooped my frat buddy's butt. Yeah, man.
My quarterback beat up Gretzky's son.
And the strength coach beat up some frat boy. Yeah, and got sued. I want that guy coaching my strength thing. Yeah, That's what I want. And Wilson Love, one of those. I'm glad to have him. His enthusiasm.
Apparently, Eli got in a fight with some from that just casually got dropped in by David Morris. That Eli got in a brawl with some Auburn frat boys in college.
Bo Wallace got in a fight with the KAs.
At his own school when he got his ass.
They went over and they're like, "Hey, you ain't welcome back."
There's still that one picture of Bo's face getting jacked. Ooh, not a good look for your starting quarterback, man. Come on, KAs, you gotta hurt your quarterback, damn it.
Yeah.
Well, man, Lance, this has been awesome. This is, I did not know I get it. This has been great. I didn't think I get this much time in the stories. I did not know I get donkey polo at the.
Hey, trust me, it needs to be brought back. It's one of those few old school things that maybe is not happening somewhere, but donkey polo honestly was the most hilarious thing you've ever seen. And the more drunk everyone got, the more fun it got, and the donkeys had more fun, So it's really you're pulling for the donkeys in this thing.
Sounds like something that happens in Mexico, not
exactly. You would think it would. It reminds me of the old school when Will Ferrell's standing there around the little Shetland pony thing, and dude comes up, he goes and pulls a the boss has got the cattle prod. Yeah. And that's kind of what it reminds you. You're waking up and like you got your bathrobe on and you're drinking, and you're out there all these donkeys running. So yes, it is definitely something to go to envision. And if they're doing it at Auburn still, somebody please reach out and tell me, and I'll go drive over there for the event.
Lance will come. He'll moderate the event for you guys, man.
Yeah, I'll be the ref, and I'm pulling for the donkeys. Get me, you understand? I'm pulling for the donkey.
Frank the Tank would be back.
I'll give a call. I mean, this is something that he would probably enjoy. Yeah, and then streak through the quad. Streak everybody.
I'll tell you what, I'm drinking Bloody Marys now. We don't play till 7. If Ole Miss beats Auburn, I may be streaking tonight.
You need to. And drop some moonshine in that bloody. It'll make it better.
Well, with that said, man, let's give some picks. You want to do some gambling picks to wrap this bad boy up?
You got it. Start out.
All right. Michigan State Spartan game. Michigan is a 4.5-point favorite on the road at Michigan State. Who you got?
Michigan State. Definitely. I'm going with the Staters, baby.
I've got Sparty plus 4.5 myself. All right. Next game, going back up to the Big Ten. We've got Iowa also on the road, plus 3.5 to Wisconsin. Upstart the struggling Badgers. Who you got there?
Iowa.
Man, we didn't talk about this one. It's one you did kind of mention, James Franklin. We mentioned that he got a new agent midway through the week, which kind of makes you think he might not be all that focused on football. He is an 18.5-point underdog to Ohio State. You got anything on that?
I'm going to go with Ohio State. I'm just, Penn State just doesn't impress me. Franklin, like you said, I think that he's got other things on his mind. And, maybe looking for an exit, parachuting out to another place. So I'm going to stick with Ohio State. And I think they're a good football team, too.
I do, too. And if you've watched Ohio State the last few weeks, they've just been beating the hell out of everybody.
They have been pummeling people. Yeah, they look motivated.
I'm big. I like Ohio State a lot in this spot. I think
even at that line of almost 20, I still feel good about that one, And they're at home. I mean, come on.
Oh, yeah.
That place, the horseshoe is going to be rocking. Herb Street's going to be drooling everywhere,
Oh, yeah, he's going to be all kind of pumped. He can't hide it. Cocktail party, Georgia minus 14.5 over the Gators. That's a big line for such a big rivalry. Who you got?
Georgia's just played so well. Defense is so strong. They don't need unbelievable play out of their quarterback. It's just a 2-touchdown advantage that they're saying. I'm going to go with Georgia. I want Florida to win it. I just don't have a feeling that they can pull it off. It is not a home game for Florida. It is neutral site, so there's really no advantage. That thing will be cut right down the middle, that stadium. I've got to go with Georgia, but with a disclaimer that I really would like to see Florida pull that one off. To keep Mullen a little more safe and Kiffin, farther away from Florida as possible.
I think Florida keeps it close, but I don't see any way Florida wins this game. Georgia's got too much defense. Maybe Mullen can keep it close. I think people, if you've been following me this year, you don't know this, Lance. I have been horrible on Dan Mullen against the spread this year. I think I'm 1-5 picking Florida, and they've been in my damn pick 'em every week. So fading me and picking against the spread against Dan Mullen coach games this year has been a good way to go. And I think Florida will keep it close. So with that said, bettors out there, you might want to load up, put your house on Georgia because I think
this will be your second win because you're rolling with you're going to go with Florida's spread. Georgia's going to win, but you think Florida's going to keep it close enough.
Georgia's going to win, but I think Florida covers the 14.5. Yes.
Reason I think that the 14 will hold up for Georgia, I think JT will get in and play a little bit too. I think there's a wild card there potentially when JT Daniels gets in. And, he has definitely got a little more arm talent to me than Bennett. And it'll be interesting to see if that gets in. The other side is if Mullen's hard-headed and keeps the platooning instead of playing his best guy. Again, that could take 7-10 points off the board, maybe more for him. So I'm going to stick with Georgia covering. But like I said, I can see how Florida could play within that. And, again, I'd much rather just Florida just going and win it and shut up Georgia and all this,
that'd be great. Oh, I'd love a Florida win. I would love some chaos to start this day. Go for it. I'm with it. All right, man, let's go. Kentucky. We just talked about this game a little bit. Kentucky is a 1.5-point favorite on the road at Starkville tonight. You kind of gave it. I feel like you think Kentucky may pull this one out.
I don't understand I don't know why it's so tight. I think Kentucky's proven the ability to play about anybody pretty well. The Georgia game again. I mean, they played the number one team in the country. They could have. It's a lot like the Ole Miss Alabama game. But opportunities just didn't have them. Didn't punch it in. Made some mistakes. Coming in at a 1.5. I just don't think State's that good, honestly. I think they're an average team that's going to end up around 6-6. They get some low-level bowl game. But I think Kentucky's playing a lot like Ole Miss, right? Playing with a little bit of an edge, playing with some passion. They see the light at the end of the tunnel. We're right there toward the end of it. And I think you're going to see a very motivated Kentucky team come in on the road. And I do believe they're going to cover it at least 3-7. I think they'll cover that spread. It'll be a 3-7 point game. And Kentucky's going to win that one.
Man, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think.
And I hate to say that. I don't want to make any of the State folks mad. It's just a gut feeling here. I just don't think State's at that point yet to be predictable where you can say, okay, it's home and we should win this game. Maybe next year, I think Kentucky's at that where they're predictable. They're going to go play wherever it's home, road, doesn't matter.
I think that Kentucky's the better team. I think and look, they've got a lot to play for. They win this game, and they're walking to 11-1.
Exactly.
Again, the best season, the best since Bear Bryant roamed there. Before,
which people forget that even happened. It's so long ago.
Before Mom even called. However,
was even known as the Bear then.
I have a weird feeling it's going to get funky in Starkville tonight, and State with that line being 1.5, man. And this is going to contradict because I'm going to put my red and blue glasses on here in a minute, but I think State pulls the upset tonight, man. I think the bells are going to be ringing. So for all my State buddies out there, I'm not doing this just for you. I get the weird vibe that there's going to be more cowbell tonight in Starkville, and I
wouldn't mind seeing State win it. Honestly, I'm not pulling against him. I just personally think Kentucky is a little more focused, a little more polished this year than what we don't see them as much. As the Western teams. I mean, you can go watch them on ESPN. But I don't think a lot of we're not watching Kentucky a lot. State fans probably aren't watching Kentucky. That's one they've usually chalked up on their schedule. And thank God we have Kentucky every year.
Yeah.
That's not this type of team. This Kentucky team can kick your ass pretty quick. And I think, again, it's going to come down to Chris Rodriguez. If you have that kind of terrible seven rushes. I mean, seven rushing yard type game. They're going to get smoked.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's the case. I think he's a very good running back and probably the most underrated in the league.
Oh, I agree. Kid can play. All right, man. Big game on the Plains. Ole Miss is a 2.5-point underdog. That's the last line I saw. I don't know if it's moved since, but Auburn is favored. Halloween Eve, as I call it, the Native American burial grounds. What you think? I'm nervous about this one.
I hate to. I mean, it's just the success ratio of Ole Miss at Auburn so terrible, and you got a good Auburn team that's playing pretty good football, kind of a renewed vigor. The thing that I would say maybe you have, going against them is the question mark of whether Harsin is going to have to get the vaccine or something. So who knows if that's a big conversation or whatever is going on within the locker room.
Apparently, Cheech and Chong came down and had a big weed smoking circle with them this week too.
Good. And they healed them then.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Good
it's all CBD, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm going to go. I'm going with Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is in a position that they wanted to be in, and I think they've embraced that challenge this year. You see a quarterback that is maybe not arguably, the best player, if not top 3 or 4 in college football. I think the best quarterback. Defense has played better, but you're going to have to stop a two-headed attack at running, and then their quarterback is mobile. We have not, it reminds me of Arkansas a little bit. And this game could come down to 1 point, So I'm going to go with Ole Miss, and it's going to be close. I think Ole Miss is going to win it outright by 1, 2, or 3 points. It's going to be at some point in this game, it's going to look ugly. Every Ole Miss game this season has had that 10, 15-minute stretch in there of high penalties. Terrible. It just looks horrible. And it's going to happen again in this one. I will rest assured on that.
Oh, yeah, it's coming. Just if we
can we weather that, and we have so far, I think we can do that again, But it's going to be a tight one. Ole Miss this season is one of tight games, a lot of tension, and the old moments for all Ole Miss fans is like the "We Are Ole Miss." Oh God, it's going to happen in every game, maybe 10 times a game.
Oh yeah, multiple times a game. Yeah, I agree, man. Well, man, I hope we win it. My heart tells me, my heart and my mind are like, Daniel, just be prepared for the letdown. But I am a Rebel fan. And if you watched the show last week, we brought out the red and blue glasses.
Yeah.
My blue glasses tell me we're going to go to the Plains and kick their ass. There's no blue glasses with this. If we can go down and win by 2 or 3 points, I think it's going to be a tight one. I do think Auburn's a good team. A lot of people wrote them off after the Penn State game or just wrote them off this year for some weird reason. And Auburn's just kind of slowly plugged away and looked real good on the road against Arkansas, looked real good on the road against LSU. And they've had a week off to prepare for this game. I do think Ole Miss is different. I think they're special. I think they go down there and pull the win tonight. Hopefully get it by, I don't care if it's 1, 2, or 3, just pull it out. But
I think Harsin's a good coach, man. I was, I don't know if anybody was overly impressed with the hire to start with, but what he's able to do in year 1 coming in and just kind of pulling things together. I've been impressed with his, coaching ability in this league. He took the challenge and went to a place like Auburn was not. I mean, the fans are very demanding, and the expectations are high. And so far, I think Harsin's done a really good job to start. I think Kiffin's a year ahead of him, though, and I think that may be part of the little bit of an edge Ole Miss may have here is that, you're playing under this system. It's the second year. It's a new defensive scheme. We're getting better at that, but the offensive scheme is one and the same of last year. And I think you're seeing that, hopefully with the younger guys that are having to step up this weekend are going to do that because you're going to need them in order to win this game. You're not going to run it down Auburn's throat. And Matt Corral can't run it 30 freaking times and have an Arkansas or, a Tennessee type performance. It's going to have to be well-rounded for Ole Miss to come out of this one without having injuries and to come out with any hope of the ability to move forward. You got to have the quarterback. There is no backup. There's no Stetson Bennett. You can talk about Pegram or Kincaid Dent or Luke Altmaier. The reality is none of those guys are ready yet, or you'd have seen them. In situations, and they're just not. So the key in this is going to be, in order to finish the season strong, Ole Miss is going to have to protect the quarterback, and that means some of these wide receivers are going to have to get open.
they're gonna have to do it tonight. It's gonna have to see it tonight to win this one because it's gonna.
And Auburn's not bad in the secondary. They're not. They're prone to get beat deep, and hopefully some of those explosive plays will happen for Ole Miss. But the same can be said with Ole Miss. Defense is not something that's been overly pretty all year, and this Auburn offense is pretty strong.
Well, like I said, what it comes down to, I expect a back and forth game in which we're completely nervous as shit until the final outcome. What it's going to,
it'll be twiddling thumbs. Oh, come on. This has got to get over with. Don't go OT. Yeah. I think Pittman said, no OT. Because, that Arkansas game, that's kind of the way I see this in play.
Yeah.
Either team.
Well, Lance, man.
Any other games you got any? Carolina. I picked Coastal over Troy. I think it's going to be 35-28. No, I'm kidding. That was last night.
That was I'm about to say I had Troy. So if you had that one, I'm sorry, brother. I had Troy in that.
No, man, I was messing that.
I was about to say, crap. We're going back. So you want to go to the Navy Tulsa game?
Yeah.
I think Navy's going to cover the 11.5 and hell take the money line.
Yeah, I'm just going to flip a coin on that one. That was one that you threw a curveball on me. I was not prepared for the Navy Tulsa game. No. Well, any other games you want to pick here? What about? There's one other I like.
If you've got one you like, let's hear it.
I like that. It is because you got two teams, that are, in their respective ways playing very good football in SMU and Houston. SMU traveling to Houston. I know it's not a marquee game. It's 6:00 game. Nobody's going to see it because of the other big ones. But you got a 7-0 SMU team at 19 and Houston 6-1, and you got a Rand over there, and it looks like he's doing pretty well. Even line. It's a pick 'em. That's why I like it. Do you take SMU on the road, or do you go with Houston at home?
Houston's been playing good lately. Mm-hmm. It just depends on how drunk that coach is. They got the coach that was at West Virginia. Not Holmgren.
Holgerson. Dana
Holgerson. Yeah, Dana Holgerson's. Yeah, man, they've actually been on fire lately, and that's one of those games that Vegas doesn't just throw shit out there. They try to debate you a little bit at times, and I think that the majority of the country would see that in the 19th ranked team and just jump all over the pick. And I'd take Houston. I'd go with the home team.
Well, it's a 61.5 over under. So, I mean, you're talking about a fairly decent scoring ball game to get over. And, both these teams have good offenses. So I'm I'm with you. I'm taking the home team, Houston. And I think they're going to get a few stops maybe, You got the head coach there's a defensive guy. I think they'll stop SMU a couple times. And I think Houston's going to, put SMU back into the the defeated spot, it'd be 7-1. So that was my last one I really liked to look at, mainly because it was a pick 'em, and pretty fun looking ball game, honestly, with, like you said.
That picked in on. I like that. That's a good pick because we always do a WTF line. Like, what the?
Yeah, that's the one.
Always a line once a week.
What am I missing here?
What am I missing here? And it's usually because Vegas knows something. And if Vegas knows something, that's when you nut up and bet the opposite way. Don't look at the teams. Don't look at the rankings. Don't look at anything. Just if it looks funny, Vegas is doing that for a reason, and
I get the same. It's the Notre Dame North Carolina game kind of smells funny to me with a 3.5 Notre Dame at home. Yeah, I mean, you got a North Carolina team that's decent, and a Notre Dame team that again they're 6-1. I mean, not saying that they beat up on a lot of people, but they are 6-1 playing at home. In the cold weather. You got North Carolina coming in at 4-3. And you're basically giving Notre Dame a field goal advantage. So, I mean, I'm going to go with Notre Dame. There's another one I like to – just because it just seems like that, WTF moment. Like, what am I missing here?
Yeah, what am I missing here? That is another good WTF of – and I don't know, man. That would make you want to lean North Carolina, who hadn't really lived up to their preseason billing of number 10. That's a good one, man. That's one to keep an eye on. I will definitely watch today.
You got such a good the Howell kid at North Carolina, great quarterback. Great quarterback.
Well, he's got Longo telling him to throw.
That's what I'm. Yeah, I witnessed that guy. Now you can keep him. Thank you for taking him.
Oh yeah.
So Longo ball. Not a big fan of that. But hey, good luck.
Yeah, but I do think North Carolina has been playing better, and I do hope they beat Notre Dame because they've got good-looking uniforms, and I can't stand Notre Dame.
I like the powders, man, and North Carolina's got some beauties. And again, I'm not a big Notre Dame fan. I do think that, Kelly's a good coach and usually puts a competitive team together. Almost every year they're competitive. and usually with slower footed guys than a lot of the teams that, you see him go up against. And scheme wise, he's been very solid defensively, offensively, special teams. Notre Dame's a polished team usually, but again, they're just a step slow. They don't have the speed. Well, man, I've got to get out of here.
Lance, man, I know you got to go. I appreciate the time today, man. Hopefully we can get you back one Saturday, again,
Anytime.
Saturday, maybe do a podcast with you, buddy.
Pleasure. I've enjoyed it, and it's been an honor. Thank you for having me on, and have a wonderful day. If you ever need anything, give me a holler.
Hey, hotty toddy, buddy.
Peace, brother.
Yes, sir. Well, man, that was Lance Talbert of Auburn and Ole Miss baseball legend. I say legend. He was a great player up there, man, and is still a part of the game, part of Super Talk. Man, I did not know we were going to get Donkey Polo from his days at Pike. That was, God bless, that was insane. We're going to have to try to get some pictures of that. But, man, great insight, great picks. He thinks the Rebels are going to win today. He thinks Kentucky's going to win today. He thinks Georgia's going to take care of everything in the cocktail party. But, look, I've had a lot of people probably waiting on for my next guest, one Wes Roy. All my Hillcrest folks I know are waiting. He also has some good talk about Ja Hunter, the running back at Auburn. So I'm going to pipe Wes right in and not make you wait any longer. All right. As advertised, I said we've got a special guest. We've got a high school coach from Mississippi, Wes Roy, defensive coordinator of undefeated Enterprise. Also, he coached a key player in Saturday's big game between Alabama and Auburn, and I want him to talk about that young man a little bit here in a second. But, man, Wes Roy, welcome to the show. Longtime friend of mine. We played little background. We played high school football together. We dreamed of coaching, and this man is doing it. He's molding young men, enriching lives. Wes, thanks for being here, bud.
No problem, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, man, awesome. So you've got a pretty exciting, like I said, undefeated, man. Got a magical season going.
Yeah, we're, like I said, we've talked, me and you, of course, have talked off and on through the year. But, yeah, we're just kind of trying to keep it going. Got a big game tomorrow night, see if we can keep it undefeated, regular season, and we'll start playoffs next week. So we were fortunate enough to lock up the number 1 seed in the district last week, so we can we'll host the first round of the playoffs next week. So we don't know yet who we're going to play. So it'll be Seminary or Perry Central, I believe, but we'll figure that out after tomorrow night. So, and
y'all got is it Forest tomorrow night?
Forest, yeah.
On the road, right?
No, it's at home, actually.
Okay, at home. And, man, a neat little storyline if you're not following Enterprise every day. Wes has actually got his son on the team. And, man, if growing up, like I said, with Wes, it's really neat. I get every Friday night, I get the Facebook update from his wife with the picture and then the update from Wes with how their game's going. But how cool is it to get to have, coach your son, man? I know you – how's that balance?
It's good. I mean, it would probably be a little bit. He plays linebacker and fullback, and I'm the O-line, D-line coach. So I'm not his position coach. So that probably helps things a little bit. I'm not having to ride him every day, all day, like you do as a position coach. So, and that part of it, it's really good. I mean, because we're not at each other's head all day, and we just kind of get to enjoy the good parts of it. Because like I said, I'm not responsible for what he does on the field, so to speak.
That's right.
Play, but it's good. I mean, sometimes I'm probably not as good as I should be. I kind of get lost in the coaching part and I don't probably sit back and just kind of take in the dad part very as much as I should. I've tried to get better at it, especially now that he's a junior and this is the end of the junior year. I mean, you only have 6 games guaranteed from this point forward. So
yeah,
I'm gonna try to do a little bit better job at that. I have blinders a lot during the season and just kind of focused on what I got to do to make the linemen better and that type of stuff. So I'm gonna try to do a little better job of that. But overall, it's great. I mean, that's why I ultimately came back to Enterprise, is because he loved it there, and they gave me an opportunity to come back or not come back. They gave me an opportunity to come, and
yeah,
and that's what he wanted to stay there, and so that's ultimately what we did. So
okay,
it's been good. It's been real good.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, look, we've got 3 fan questions, Wes, that I'm going to pepper in throughout the show, and then we're going to get to look. We've got some fans out there that want to know about Mr. Hunter. But true or false? And you said your son's going into his senior year, so hopefully Trace isn't listening and doesn't follow in Dad's footsteps. If this is true, have you ever jumped off a cliff proclaiming that your team would or would not win a state championship?
That's true. I did do that.
True statement. Okay,
statement.
Okay. Was it state 98, I believe?
It was. That was it.
How did that turn out?
It did not turn out like I thought it was going to turn out.
Okay. Fan question number one. That's true for you out there that we're okay. I will pepper them in. We're not going to do all three fan questions at once because that's just too easy. Well, man, how long have you been coaching over in the
altogether?
in East Mississippi? I know you've been kind of all over that area, right?
Yeah, well, I've been at 3 different schools. I've been this is my 19th season. So I spent my first 14 years, I think it was, at Clarkdale, which is not far from Enterprise now. Small school, it was 2A, 3. They're 3A now. They're 2A when I was there. So I just got assigned there as a student teacher coming out of college, and they were going through a coaching transition at the time, and I just said, look, I'm a student teacher. I just want to come out and help in the spring and volunteer or whatever. And so I did that. That kind of rolled into a full-time assistant job the next year, teacher and assistant job. And then the school is just a great place. It's not known for athletics or for football anyway. But it's a great place. It's a great place.
School that rings cowbells named the Bulldogs, not known for football.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And they wear maroon.
And they wear maroon.
Yeah,
probably because they set themselves up for failure, but who knows?
But it was, great place for my kids, and I liked it. The kids were awesome, even in classroom wise. And so I stayed there for a long time. I was an assistant there for 9 years, I think. And then my last 5 years, I was promoted as the head coach. Stayed there for 5 years as head coach, and we did some good things. Ultimately, not as good as I obviously wanted, but just felt like it was time to kind of move on. So I resigned, kind of wanted to do the big school thing. And that's where I ended up going to Neshoba Central in Philadelphia. And that's, obviously why I'm on this show more than likely, because that's where I ran into Jarquez and got to coach him. And then all that stuff, then I loved it in Neshoba, had every intentions of staying. But like my house, where I live, and this is probably more information than what anybody wants. Where I live,
Come on, buddy.
Where I live is Enterprise School District. So when I resigned from Clarkdale, Trace could either go with me and my daughter Kendall. They could either go with me, or they could to Neshoba, or they could go to Enterprise.
Uh-huh.
Knew a lot of people at Enterprise, and Trace and Kendall knew kids there because the schools are so close. So we're like, well, and he was going into the 8th grade, I think. So it wasn't quite that high school transition yet. So it was like, well, y'all go to Enterprise for this year. I'll go to Neshoba. I'll make sure everything's good. And then y'all, if everything's good in Neshoba, then y'all come with me. Well, they ended up loving it at Enterprise. I ended up loving it in Neshoba, and you see where I ended up. But it all worked out good. Enterprise has been great to me, and obviously we've had a lot of success. Not because of me, but we've had a lot of success, and it's been fun. It's been good all the way around for our family.
Well, cool, man. Cool. Well, yeah, and that is kind of you started sending me messages in sophomore, and this kid's sophomore year, but I remember you kind of texting me, man, Petty, we got a kid that's a heck of a talent. Ole Miss is already kind of talking to him, State's flirting with him, and I never shared the pictures you sent me that were awesome of the kid doing backflips in his boots and stuff. But did you know at that, and if for those out there, Wes coached our Jarquez Hunter, the freshman phenom, part of the two-headed running back tandem down at Auburn with Tank. Everybody talked about Tank. I don't think Jarquez was even thought about before the season started, and he just bursted on the scene. And man, he's kind of taking the show some games. But I guess back to the question: did you realize he was that good then?
Yeah, I think we did. Of course, like I said, I was only with him for a year, and it was kind of when he was coming into his own, going from, that 9th to 10th grade year is kind of a big jump for a lot of kids physically and mentally and everything else. And, I got to have him every day because I was the outside linebacker coach there, and he played both ways. He started at running back, and he also turned around and played defense for us too. But yeah, I think we did. We just didn't quite know what his ceiling was. Some of the really great coaching staff there, Coach Schooler's the head coach there, and Coach Ruffin's the defense coordinator there. And, they probably knew a little bit more than me because they had him since I think junior high, and they'd been there and been with him. But I think we knew he was special, or I knew. I mean, we all knew he was special. We just didn't know quite know what the ceiling was for sure. But we all knew he was going to be special pretty early on.
Well, I mean, when you see a back that's doing what he's doing at Auburn, you almost assume that he took it to the house almost every time he touched the ball. Is that kind of the situation with him, or you know?
Not necessarily. I mean, 5A football. He played 5A football. Now he got his yards. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't even know if I remember a game where he didn't rush for over 100 yards. I mean, that's 5A competitive, top notch football. You put him in a 1A, 2A, 3A, he'd probably rush for 200 yards a night. Just being honest, because the level of competition is not quite as stout as it is at a 5A or 6A, but not. I mean, he was not. No, not every time he touched the ball, but for sure, more than once or twice a night, he was going to do something special.
He was going to do something. They go, oh, okay, that's a little different.
It could be on defense. I mean, he always just special. That's all I can say about it.
Is he okay? And I mean, look, East Mississippi's produced some freaking freaks throughout the years. Meridian's always been a big talent producer Alabama's pulled from them from years. I mean, Mississippi State's always got a player from Meridian. Ole Miss tries to grab some from time to time. Is Hunter the best you've seen in that area play? Who's the best talent you've seen on that high school gridiron? And
I would say for sure he's the best I've seen. He's the best I've seen. Just top to bottom every day. I mean, and not just his on field talent. I mean, I could sit here all day long and brag on him, but for sure. In my 19 years and where I've been and ones I've coached against, yes, he's the best I've been around.
Man, and I knew at one point you said it was, I think CJ Johnson held that title for you. So that's saying something.
Coached against CJ Johnson early in my career, coached against Anthony Gray. I don't know if people remember him. He's in Philadelphia, played at Southern Miss. Obviously coached against Jarquez, who's now at Southern Miss. Jarquez is up there. He's definitely up there. But just pure talent that I've been around. He's the best.
Well, how did Mississippi State Ole Miss drop the ball there, letting this kid out? I know State was kind of in on him more than Ole Miss, and I don't know if it was.
I don't really know the details of it, but I think the biggest thing probably with both Ole Miss and State was the coaching transitions that were going on at that time. And I think some of them probably looked at him as being maybe a little bit too short for what they were looking for as a back. I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of, because I mean, if you saw him play on Friday nights and you came and talked to him, you'd know we need this guy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you were telling me, and again, you made a good point about the transitions. That was at a time when Luke was leaving. State had just gotten rid of Moorhead and brought in Leach, who runs the ball 2 times a game.
Moorhead was there when I was there with him his sophomore year. Moorhead was the coach, but he was only there for 2 years. So you had Mullen going out when he was like a freshman. You had Moorhead come in his sophomore, junior year. Then you had Leach come in his senior year. So I think that was probably a big thing with State. I think State really came on late, and I don't know this for sure because I was gone. But
so you didn't see if they offered any money firsthand?
No, absolutely not. I didn't see any of that.
Kidding, Wes. I would not ask if you had seen State pay players.
No.
Okay, just making sure no boosters have done that in front of your face, and we need to report them to the NCAA tonight or anything like that. I'm kidding. I thought Wes, I was going to give him some shit about a question that he couldn't answer.
Oh, yeah.
No, look, man. And if anything, Wes is, for those who don't know, I don't know how much you show it. I'm sure you can't hold it back. Do the kids know you're a big Bama fan?
Oh, yeah, they know.
That's what, you obviously didn't steer Jada to the Roll Tide, so you're not steering them.
That kid, and I'm not telling anything that people don't know, that's where he wanted to go from the start. He loved Auburn. He wore.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, that's where he wanted to go. I mean, that's everybody. We all knew if he ever gets the Auburn offer, that's where he's going to go. and they didn't offer him till late. It took Malzahn getting fired and Harsin coming in, and then Will Friend coming in as Harsin's O-line coach to get the offer to him, and that was in between the early signing period and the late signing period. So he waited to sign the second period, and it worked out for him. I mean, he just was patient. And it was his dream offer, and it worked out, and he's making the most of it. So
he is, man. The kid. I hope we can slow him down Saturday, because Ole Miss. You kind of warned me early in the season, don't get too excited, but shoot, the last 2 weeks we've looked better again against the run. We brought guys we've had 6 men in the box. We brought some run blitzes. It's kind of funny what happens when you engage people at the line of scrimmage.
Yep.
It's magic.
I do want to say this about, I know I'm on here talking about Jarquez, but he did more for me than I ever did for him. I mean, just getting to be around him for a year was awesome.
In what way?
In my coaching career. So I don't, like I said, he was special, and I knew he was special, and everybody knew he was special, but he was off the field. I could brag on him just as much off the field as on the field. And I know coaches talk, and that's cliche, and you pump your kids up, but I mean, I don't have anything to gain or lose by saying it. I mean, he's a special kid. I mean, he's as humble as they come. He was as coachable as they come. And I'm sure he's the same way now up there at Auburn. So anything he deserves everything he gets and more, because like I said, I've never been around a kid at his age that handled himself, that was as talented as he was and handled himself the way he did. So I just want to make sure I said that, because he's, like I said, he's a special kid.
Man, watching the Wes Roy grow up from this is the guy I met in 9th grade that borderline may have helped in my hatred of Alabama. He was a big Bama fan, but man, it's funny to hear you say that, because what I can hear in that comment is a guy that, again, we were kids and dumb at one time, who's now grown to a point that I know on Saturdays nobody yells "Roll Tide" louder than you. But on the flip side, the impact that you have on these kids at the high school level transcends anything that's a team on Saturday. I know that also you cheer like hell for Ja down at Auburn, which is is that could you ever have thought that man, you know, there'd be a point in your life where you've got these kids going to this rival you grew up with, and you're cheering
I was fortunate just to get to be around him. I mean, it just worked out. But I texted him tonight after he committed, because I knew how much he wanted to go there. Like I said, he used to wear an Auburn armband all the time, and he didn't ever come out and say that's where I'm going to go. But I mean, we knew that. I mean, he liked Auburn. Everybody knew it, you know. And I texted him tonight that he got his offer, you know, and when he committed, I guess, or signed. I guess it was that signing day. I texted him after he signed, and I told him, I said, if there was one person that could make me say War Eagle, it's going to be you. So I gave him War Eagle.
That's awesome. And man, I really am glad to hear that, because I think a lot of fans get caught up in, like you said, you're a big Bama fan, thinking these coaches try to steer kids or get upset when a kid goes the other way. Look, man, I think 99%, there's that fringe lunatic out there, but I would, based off the coaches I've been around, based off the stories I've heard you tell, I'd say 99% of these coaches absolutely care more about the kid and his success wherever he may go, whether it be the arch rival, whether it be the team that they deep down cheer for. So that's really cool to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, like you said, 99%, maybe even more. I mean, you just want what's best for the kid. You want the best situation for the kid to be in. And I mean, I haven't been around a ton of kids that have signed D1 or anything like that. Besides, a few go here and there. And then, of course, I hit the jackpot going in the show, but when I did, just to get to be around him. But and a couple other ones that are going to probably end up playing D1. But you just want kids to be in the best situation for them. You don't care where they go. I don't care where any of them go, as long as they get an opportunity to go, and it's it fits them, and that's where they want to go.
Fan question number 2. Did you ever own a convertible truck?
That's also a fact. Yes, that's true.
Nice.
I did.
Was it two-tone?
It was. And it was a low rider, and it did have a system in it too.
Have you ever shown your team this truck?
No, I have not. I have not done that.
I hope that they hear this and force you to pull out a picture from your days.
I probably got one on my phone somewhere.
All right. I've got to go to fan question number 3 because I know I've taken a lot of your time. We really got into the Jaws stuff. Did you ever make up a rap song on the fly that almost resulted in the near death of not only yourself, but 2 other dear friends?
That's absolutely true, too.
Yeah.
I still worry about that, too. I'm like, man, they might kill me next time he sees me for that. But, yeah, I did. I sure did. That's true.
Yes. Yes, it is true. I just wanted to ask that one because I could also be the affirmative as because I was one of the friends that almost lost his life in that deal. Absolutely. However, man, if your team does, again, for your team out there, if they ever hear this, know that for 2 minutes your coach went slap Eminem, I don't know, out of his mind in a rap because it all flowed. It was all money, and it pissed off this Yankee dude that you do not want to piss off.
No, you definitely don't want to piss him off. No,
he was the guy you wanted when we did dumb stuff. So no, okay. So did make up a rap song on the fly. Know that team.
Yeah, that's freestyle.
Oh man, that is so I know that'll only be humorous to a handful of people out there. Hopefully some will get out of that. I've gotten a lot of my questions. You before we get in, I've got 3 more questions about that are quick hitters. Tell me about the season coming. So y'all got Forest coming up, and then is it the playoffs?
Yeah, well, we have Forest tomorrow night. I told you before we came on before we started recording that we had to play on Thursday night this week, but yeah, we'll play Forest tomorrow night, and then after that we'll get the 4 seed out of Region 8, which is more than likely is going to be the winner of Seminary and Perry Central tomorrow night. So we'll know more about that tomorrow night.
Awesome, man. Well, Wes, good luck with the rest of the high school season, man. I hope y'all keep this magical season going. I know not only being undefeated, getting a chance to, like you said, it's really cool. It may be a lot better that your son's not, on the defense where you get to appreciate him when he's on offense, and then you can go back to cracking the whip on defense, or maybe you say, like I said, I'm sure you get on his ass when he
plays defense, but he just doesn't play D line, so I don't have to.
Oh, okay. So you're on the linebacker. Okay.
I coach the D line and the O line, and he plays fullback linebacker. So
it's still so weird for me knowing that your son is a skill position set.
Yeah, I know that's crazy. Ain't it?
I mean, Wes was that dirty dog back in the day, man.
Yeah.
All time, you said Bama, so I'm assuming this is going to come from Crimson. Who is your all time? Who made you love this sport that we love so dearly? I mean, I remember used to get into some of this.
Yeah, but man, that's a tough question. I guess some of my earliest memory, not my earliest memories, but I guess being at an impactful age, I would probably say back in the early 90s, George Teague was one of my favorite players on offense. On defense. And then I not necessarily one single one, but I always looked forward to who the next great Alabama running back was going to be. I always look forward to like the freshman, who's the freshman that's going to come in.
I always get that Lindy's magazine, see who the picture was in the square.
I was always excited about that. And then, of course, Derek Oden, played at Hillcrest, and he played at Alabama. So I always kind of had that D.O. lean that, he was always kind of not necessarily an idol, but, it was somebody that played at the same school that we played at, that played on the national championship team and started and was a captain on that team and all that. So that was kind of the era that really made me fall in love with it. But I mean, of course, my brother being older than me and my dad, and you just kind of
hear all the stories.
Yeah, you hear all the other stuff, the Saran Stacey's, and I was 8 or 9 years old when those guys were playing, but you don't really pay attention to it. You hear the names and you watch, but you don't really know what's going on until you get about 12 or 13 years old, and you really start, you start playing it at a junior high level, and then you can kind of relate and know what's going on. So I guess that's why that kind of time frame is what always makes me think back on, like, my fond childhood Alabama memories or whatever around that Gene Stallings time frame.
Oh yeah, I trust it. It was a good one to come up in, man. A lot of good names, a lot of classic like I said, from Lassick to Sherman to Teague to Oden. And I remember walking in Hillcrest and seeing Oden's picture and immediately thinking, hell, I'm not sure that dude, people like that play at this school. Crap, I'm screwed. All right, Wes. The name of the show is Saturday Morning Cocktail Kickoff. Do you ever have a Saturday morning? I mean, what's your Saturday? Do you still go to a brew, or you all get? Is it just protein powder for you these days, buddy?
Not very often, especially not in the mornings. So, but I mean, every once in a while, but nothing significant, and definitely not in the morning.
Definitely not. Well, no, man, you're still getting over that Friday night, but Bama never stresses you out enough to at least pop a cold Bud Light or some IPA or all right, I'll take a
surprise, man. I don't. I guess because, and I tell people this all the time. You know, I was like psycho Bama fan when I was younger, and be depressed when they lost, and all that. But I think, well, one, because I'm a coach now, and I think my emotions are all spent from Friday nights, and so I don't have a lot of emotion to put into Alabama games anymore. But also the fact that they've won so much more than I ever expected. When Nick Saban came to Tuscaloosa, I thought, okay, if he stays 5 years and maybe win one national championship, and at least he'll clean things up and get us going in the right direction where somebody can take over like he did at LSU. You know, that's kind of what my expectation was. And I never in 1,000,000 years thought they would win like they have won. So like everything they do now to me is just like cream cheese. I mean, it's just like icing on top of the cake. So I guess that's what it is. I just don't stress about it anymore. I mean, if they win, awesome. I hope, I want them to win. Yeah. If they lose, I mean, they could lose every game from here to the next 10 years, and they've done more in my lifetime than most people get to see.
Oh, that's what I mean. Look, I'd kill for just a slice of that pie, of Saban's pie that he's created at Alabama, man. It's been insane. And that's what's funny. I was going to bring this up and almost forgot. You know, it's gotten so spoiled, and look, man, I don't want to call spoiled. This guy literally gave it all for Alabama, and this isn't a spoiled thing at all. But you've got some people fired up to fire a defensive coordinator on the team that just went undefeated and won the national championship in a full SEC slate. And is number 4 in the country right now. So, I mean, it's created such a standard that even in the games where you win, if it doesn't look right, and look, I get this too, man. Bama fans, this is where living in Tuscaloosa for a long time, I kind of get it. They're not looking at, well, yeah, I get we pulled away from Tennessee. I get we're winning. But if we put that product on the field against Georgia right now, which is the standard bearer, which is what our standard bearers championships, where right now Georgia's kind of holding the mantle in college football. If we put that product on the field, it's not going to beat Georgia right now. So I get, but man, as a coach, is it weird for you are you different now with that, where you're not as quick to say, oh, get that coach out of here. That idiot doesn't know what he's doing.
Well, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I get it. I mean, it's part of the business. I mean, even at high school level, I mean, you're going to have people that just don't like you for whatever reason, and are going to look for reasons to run you off or whatever. But I mean, obviously I can't imagine what they go through on Saturdays, but I mean, I didn't make this up on my own. I read it somewhere on the internet recently, or on Twitter, I think. Somebody said, and it was somebody that you may have heard them say, Alabama, I guess it may have been Paul Feinbaum, as a matter of fact, but, he said Alabama is judged on perfection. Everybody else is judged on Alabama, under Nick Saban. And that's not really fair. It's really not fair, the standard that they have to live up to. I mean, it's like you said, if they don't win by 4 touchdowns or 8 touchdowns, and they don't score, like even the offense coordinator, I mean, if they don't score every time they have a possession, then it's a failure. If the defense doesn't create 12 turnovers, and obviously I'm being, facetious, but if they don't create turnovers and they don't shut everybody out, then it's, oh God, the sky's falling. But
then on the flip side, you said people are judged against it. In any other era, Gus Malzahn's considered one of the greatest coaches in Auburn history. He took them to a national title as a good coach, but he's being compared his entire tenure against the greatest coach in college football. It's not a fair comparison.
Gus Malzahn also beat Nick Saban on a pretty regular basis, more so than any other coach has.
Absolutely.
I mean, every year, every other year or every 2 years, Auburn was going to slip up and beat Alabama and beat Nick Saban. So,
but got fired because he couldn't sustain.
And
like you said, so on the flip side of where it's made Bama have this irrational, we got to win every game by 4 touchdowns. It's made other teams have an irrational view of what you're competing against. It's almost, and look, man, it's not a deal where you pack your ball up for 10 years and go home till the man finally retires. You got to find ways to compete against him. But there's also times where I think there needs to be a little bit more of a realistic expectation.
And I do. I mean, I get it. I understand, especially from the Alabama aspect of it. But the former players and all the ones that are fired up about the defense coordinator and everything. I mean, I get it. I mean, there's a certain standard. And I mean, realistically, they probably haven't played up to the standard. But but there's also other things that fans don't see, and I'm by no means taking up for him or talking against him. I don't know what's going on, but I do know it's a whole heck of a lot harder than it looks, and it's a whole heck of a lot harder than sitting on your couch calling the plays. I do.
Well,
know
look,
that.
and man,
and I know that's cliche, but that's true.
Well, and I get, and a lot of these guys are talking from an era where they could play football different. And man, nobody talks about this mindset, but let's talk about Malachi Moore in the Texas A&M game. He goes out in the first quarter for a spear. That changed your mindset as a defensive player on how you're going to attack. Like, boy, if I go in as a headhunter, am I going to get ejected from this game? So next time I'm going to try to go high, and you may miss a tackle because you've now changed your mindset. Nobody really talks about these kids are now having to play with a mindset of, it's real easy to get kicked out and a lot of these times it's because the offensive player is ducking his head and all of a sudden you can't do anything about it. So nobody really talks.
That part's absolutely true. And what you said earlier about the era, I mean, and even just over the 10, 12 years or whatever, how long it's been, Nick Saban's been the head coach, just in the last probably 4 or 5 years, the game of football and college football especially has changed. I mean, we're not playing football in a phone booth anymore. We're playing basketball on grass. I mean,
that's right.
This is a track meet. And
Reuben Foster, who was on the Bama Standard just the other night talking about, it's like, dude, you would have got kicked out of every game.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a totally different. And again, I'm not making excuses for or against what's going on with the defense at Alabama right now, but I know it is harder now to play defense in the modern era of college football than it has ever been. Not just because of the offenses, what I'm saying, but also what you're saying. I mean, every rule is tilted towards the offense. When do you ever see offensive pass interference? I mean, the cornerbacks can't even sneeze on a receiver and they're going to get called for it every time. It doesn't matter. I mean, and again, and that's neither here nor there, but I just think there's a lot more factors that go into it that people are probably not quite looking at. And I know Pete Golding is held to the standard of Jeremy Pruitt, and before Jeremy Pruitt, Kirby Smart.
That's right. That's right. And Bama's still bringing in that level of talent. So that's right. And that's where, and again, when these guys are saying it, like, I get it. I get why. And this guy makes enough money where he can take the criticism.
Right. I mean, he does. And he knows that. That's part of it. I mean, Nick Saban knows it. He knows it. I mean, they're getting paid a lot of money. And I mean, they're not high school coaches that are teaching 5 classes and then going out to coach, for the last 2 periods and staying after school. I mean, these guys make a lot of money and so it comes with the territory. I mean, I don't by any means feel sorry for him, but I do think there's a lot of other factors that and in all teams, not just in Alabama, but at the end of the day, you got to produce. I mean, and the standard is the standard, and it's not going to change. It's not going to change anytime soon. It's not going to change as long as Nick Saban's still roaming the sidelines in Alabama. So, I mean, the standard is going to be the standard. So you're either going to have to play to that standard, or you're going to have that, especially, and then other things too. I mean, something else, I mean, that's in the day and age of social media. I mean, everybody has a platform now. So you hear so many more voices, when we were younger and just, 8-10 years ago, nobody had a platform.
Weren't idiots like me.
Mailed a letter, to somebody we need to fire this guy or whatever. But now it's like a social media firestorm 5 seconds after the defensive back gets beat for a touchdown,
Oh, yeah.
So it's so different. And like I said, I don't feel sorry for them because they are well compensated and make a ton of money. And if the things don't work out, then they ain't got nothing to worry about. Let me look at Ed Orgeron. He's going to go home and sit around and find ways to spend $17 million. So, I mean,
Yeah,
You know,
people look. If I'd have known, man, that
I wish
firing
somebody would give
SEC
me $17 million to go home.
Wes, you need your goal in life shouldn't be like state. Your goal should be fired SEC coach. Like that should be your mission, to get fired as an SEC coach. And I noticed this. I'll never forget when it first caught my attention. It was when Houston Nutt was at Ole Miss, and I saw what his bonuses were. It was like $500,000 to win the SEC championship, $1 million to go to an Access Bowl. His buyout was $7 million, and I'm like, so to beat Nick Saban, he gets like $1.5 million in bonuses. To lose to Nick Saban, he's going to get a $7 million buyout. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen.
I get it. That's where we're at in college football now, though.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's even gotten worse. I mean, you remember back in the day, these coaches you knew guaranteed were going to get 4 years. Now it's 2. It's crazy, man.
And I mean, some of that also is the Nick Saban effect. I mean, he 12 years ago he came in, and then within 2 years, the second year they competed. They went to the SEC championship. Third year they won that championship. So, I mean, and that's just kind of gotten. I'm sure there's been other coaches that do it, but I mean, again, that's what people are. The standard that people are held to, and they don't even give you a full recruiting cycle now. I mean, you don't even get to see the guys you recruited become juniors anymore. I mean, they're gonna fire you.
Joe Moorhead beat Ole Miss twice and got fired solely because Ole Miss hired Lane Kiffin. I don't care what
you were saying. I see it over here, but what you were saying about Gus Malzahn and Nick Saban, but it's the same thing. If your in-state rival is doing better than you, you're going to do things to make changes to keep up with them. And that's what's happened. That's what happened with the whole chain of events between State and Ole Miss. And the same thing that's why Auburn's got a new coach now, because, everybody can stomach losses a lot more when the people they go to work with also lose. But when
Schadenfreude's hell of a thing, man. If Ole Miss ever loses, you better God believe I feel a lot better if State's taking a loss with us.
Right. They don't want to go to work the next day and have to hear, or church or whatever, and have to hear how great the other team's doing. I mean, like right now, that's the problem with State fans. I mean, really, I didn't
have a bad year.
Really appreciated Dan Mullen as much as they should have. I mean, but
no.
I mean, the fact is they, were as good of an era as there was at State under Mullen, but it wasn't good enough. They were always complaining about it.
Everybody's bar I don't know, man. Everybody's expectation gets crazy. What you being over there and growing up an Alabama fan in the Iron Bowl, and now you've been in Mississippi just as longer. And same for me. Now I've been in Alabama longer than Mississippi. What's the biggest? Can you pinpoint what the biggest difference in that rivalry is as far as fans, or other than Alabama and Auburn generally play for something a little more than we hate?
I really think that's probably it. I think I'm sorry, my daughter's coming over trying to peek around.
It's funny, yours is coming. Mine came and brought me a note mid-sentence about.
But
no worries.
I think that's probably it. I mean, as far as like just bitter hatred, rivalry, I mean, it's right there with any of them. I mean, I think the difference is, and traditionally and also in recent years, the Iron Bowl has always had a lot more weighting on it. More weight for the winner. Whereas, State and Ole Miss, not quite as much. But as far as just, rivalry, it's as good. I mean, they hate each other just as much as the Alabama Auburn folks do. I mean, that's the truth of it. But I'm sure it's that way in a lot of different in-state rivals. To them, it's just as important. Even though nationally it may not be as big of a deal, in overtime, but to the people that live in Mississippi, it's just as big of a deal as it is for Alabama and Auburn or Georgia, Florida, or or whatever. It doesn't matter. But that to me, that's really the only difference is that historically there's probably been a little bit more importance on the Iron Bowl because of the.
No, there's always. I mean, there's something to play. There's something, and I always kind of felt like that maybe is what made the Ole Miss State rival a little bit meaner, because this was it. This is what you're playing for. You're not playing for an SEC championship or the possibility of a national championship.
Playing to win.
This Egg Bowl is what you got for the rest of the year to really talk some crap over.
Right.
because it seems like in the years when Mullen had them rolling and Freeze was doing his thing, the Egg Bowl kind of got heated, but there were some bigger prizes. State went to the Orange Bowl one year, and Ole Miss was going to the Sugar or whatever. So,
Right.
and then they were too concerned with tearing each other down versus, hey, this is actually kind of fun. Like, what Auburn and Bama are doing is cool, but no, let's just burn it to the damn ground.
Scorched earth policy. Let's just burn everything down. And that's what they did.
Burn it. But it got us the lane train, so I'm good with that.
Did. Sure did.
Speaking of, man, Wes, I know you got a lot. You got a big game coming up tomorrow. You got your daughter coming in saying, Dad, it's time to tell me a story. Bama's not playing this week, but you got Ja going down there. The biggest game, man, is going down on the plains. I call it the Native American burial ground because all the weird shit that always happens at that place. Yeah. But pick for the game. What you think, man? How you see it playing out?
Like you said, I mean, I would think that I think Ole Miss is the better team. Obviously, with it being at Auburn, you never know. I mean, just like some of the crazy stuff that's happened, in our rivalry with them, and then everybody else that goes there. I mean, there's just always some voodoo magic that goes on. Seems like in Jordan-Hare that they'll pull something out, but.
Halloween Eve too.
I think Ole Miss is the better team overall, and their defense is playing better. The defense looked good early, and then of course they kind of got exposed a little bit against Alabama, and then
that happens.
They play, it happens to pretty much everybody, but not in an arrogant way, but it does.
No, it's facts back that up, buddy. It's not arrogant.
And I think they've kind of gotten it back together. And I don't think, I know they had the close game against Tennessee, but I really think Josh Heupel's done is it Josh Heupel, is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's done a really good job.
No, he has.
They're competing. He's changed the culture. I mean, they came into Tuscaloosa. They weren't scared. I mean, I know the score looked like a blowout, but they weren't scared of Alabama. They played hard.
No, 9 minutes to go in the game, that wasn't a blowout.
No, they played their tails off. You could tell he's got them believing and being confident. So, that Ole Miss get to go into Tennessee and beat them there. I mean, that's probably a better win than most people give it credit to be because of how bad Tennessee's been in recent years. But
I agree. I think you're dead on there.
I mean, I know LSU and lame duck Orgeron and all that, but I mean, they handled LSU just like kind of thought they would. I think most people thought they would. I think that was kind of the game people were waiting on with LSU. It was like, okay, is Orgeron going to be able to rally the troops and get him to play, even though he's, lame duck? And it looked like they played hard early on. I didn't see a whole lot of it or all of it, but it looked like LSU played hard early on. But then, Ole Miss being the better team, they pulled away just like they should have. So I think Ole Miss
was encouraging because LSU was still trying to score at the end. So it made me feel like they hadn't completely quit. But who knows?
I think Ole Miss is the better team. Obviously, I'll be rooting for Jarquez to have a good game and all that. But I mean, if it was just a straight pick 'em, I had to pick a win or loss, I'd probably pick Ole Miss to win. So,
all right, there you have it. Everybody, mark it in stone. Go to Tunica and put it in.
No, don't do that. As soon as I say that, Auburn will win.
Oh, look, man, trust me. If you think this Rebel feels good about going to Jordan-Hare and pulling one out on Halloween Eve with all that crap that goes on in that stadium, because man, it's not just Bama or Georgia. If you watch I've seen Ole Miss go down there and the ball do weird things. It's a weird place to be.
It's a tough place to play, man. I mean,
it is.
I grew up in Alabama and grew up hating Auburn and all that stuff, but I mean, those fans are wild. And
it's one
of the game or a 2:30 game. The fans are wild. They'll be packed out. It's a hardcore fan base, and I mean, it's a typical SEC fan base. They're gonna pack it out and it'll be tough. It'll be loud and like it was in Tuscaloosa that day, and they gave Matt Corral problems, changing plays at the line of scrimmage and all that stuff. So hopefully,
I think it's hurt them. I think that's hurt teams more this year than in any other years because they went through a full season playing in these tombs with no fans, and now these kids are in the culture shock when you go into 100,000, and now all of a sudden you're having to go back to silent counts and stuff like that.
Playing Alabama will help Corral. Playing against Alabama and Tuscaloosa, that game will probably help Corral in this game against Auburn because it'll be very similar.
Tennessee, that and the Tennessee game will definitely be.
That's right. I forgot that was away too. But
those
two
how can
games
you forget that?
A lot more. Yeah,
dude.
Yeah,
y'all didn't throw stuff at us. I mean, crowds we're ready for golf balls and tomato, catch mustard bottles and all kinds of crap.
And everything else. Yeah, that's right. I forgot.
Freaking lunatics.
I forget that. Look like Talladega when Jeff Gordon wins. Back in the day.
That or Kyle Busch.
Yeah.
Well, Wes, man, I really appreciate your time, man. One of my oldest friends. It was cool that had this connection where you got to coach Ja. I hope he has a 200-yard rushing game with no touchdowns, and Ole Miss finds a way to win it. But man, hopefully we can get you back sometime. Wes, get the end of the season. We'll do some off-season stuff, but hang around just for a second when I end this. I'll make sure I have you on. But Wes, appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah, man, appreciate it.
Anything else you want to close on, or
no? Roll Tide. That's
Roll Tide. All right, brother. Well, man, I hope y'all stuck around. It has been an incredibly long show considering it was just a one-man show today, even though my buddy Michael chimed in from Hippieville. I mean, he's out in the middle of, if you know what a wook is, that's the scary hippies that show up at Widespread Panic shows. He did chime in with 3 picks. He likes Sparty. He likes Iowa. He likes Florida. I put those across the bottom. But, man, I hope you enjoyed the interview with Wes. I hope you enjoy your college football Saturday. I hope you enjoy your Halloween. Go trick-or-treat and get lots of candy. I hope the Rebels win. Don't feel all that good about it. But, again, thanks for sticking around. We will be back next week. Hotty toddy. Have a great weekend, and I'll see y'all again. That was fun.